about it because I remember last year I asked their AD and he said, just call him Coach Polo.
Coach Polo, okay.
But that's who they're running back is. Smith. Couldn't remember that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Huddle, Week 8 of the regular season, about to get underway and in full swing all across the Buckeye State. Along with Chris Fedor from cleveland.com, Nate Klein from cleveland.com, I'm Dave Bacon. Week 8, guys, playoff positioning starts to take shape.
I mean, that's the big thing about Week 8. You know who controls their own destiny. You know who's in line for a home playoff game. You know which teams are on the bubble. I mean, this is the time last year where some of those teams that we thought maybe could have gotten into the postseason missed because of a few games down the stretch. These are usually where the heavy conference games are late in the season, so it's a great time of year for sure.
And you're talking about some of those teams that are, trying to get into playoffs. How about these teams right now who are trying to fight for a home playoff spot? Yep. So I think those are teams that we're going to kind of keep an eye out. There's quite a few games to keep an eye out for to kind of see how they're going to determine what's going to happen, where they're going to be seated. But obviously we're just in the week. We still have a couple more to go. So,
well, let's take a look at some of the big games and some of the games that we will be keeping our eye on in this Week 8 of high school football all across the Buckeye State. Division I, Region 1, one of the biggies, Moeller and Solon. Solon really needing that one. Midview is trying to keep that rolling after they had that early loss to Avon. They've been on track. Interesting matchup, Benedictine and Padua. That's an NCL battle with playoff teams, Mayfield and East Lake North. An interesting one down Columbus way. St. Ignatius from up in Cleveland, Moeller from in Cincinnati meet halfway in Columbus, and they decide they're going to do battle down in Columbus. Barberton and Talmadge is Barberton trying to stay unbeaten. Perry and Orange, Perry trying to stay unbeaten. Chardon and Brush, an interesting one. Both of those teams trying to position themselves for a spot in Division II or Region 5. Lakewood and Westlake, and then another Cincinnati versus Northeast Ohio battle. LaSalle taking on St. Vincent St. Mary. That one up in Northeast Ohio. So LaSalle hops on a bus, drives 4 hours, comes and gets ready to play football. Of all those games, Chris, which one kind of grabs your attention? Which one are you paying attention to here?
So I'm a writer, and I'm big on storylines. So I'll go with Padua against Benedictine, because if you go back to last year's meeting, it was the first time Benedictine lost against Padua since 2012. Okay, now you come into tonight's game, you've got Benedictine at 5-2, you've got Padua 6-1. Padua controls its own destiny right now if you're talking about the playoff picture, and this is a team that is not used to being in the postseason. Their head coach, Mike Polovasic, from Benedictine, now at Padua, has this team off to a great start, coming off a loss. So to me, this one has so many storylines around
here
it.
Here is a live look in as the Padua Bruins had to punt. So really good field position for Benedictine as they're going to get the ball about the 43-yard line to start their initial drive. So we'll keep an eye on that. As you see, we're looking in live, keeping all of them going. Nate, which one you got your eye on?
Well, just like Chris was talking about how he likes storylines, I like a little money. So let's just call it even. So I think they're probably going to be making quite a bit of ticket sales at this LaSalle St. Vincent St. Mary game here in this game. These are two teams who are trying to make sure that they try to keep themselves in the playoff hunt right now. And the last 3 games, both of them have dropped at least 2 of those games. So I'm curious to see how these two teams are going to fare in tonight's game again out in Akron.
6:30 start. It's a 6:30 start in this one in LaSalle with a 7-0 lead, and it looks like they're back inside the red zone are the LaSalle Lancers at the, looks like they're about the 17-yard line. And Griffin Merritt, their talented quarterback, is out of the shotgun formation, and they swing it out quickly. And not much running room there for Zach Branham, as that was a quick, actually it's Seibert, Jake Seibert. Quick swing pass to Jake Seibert. Might have actually lost a yard. So, again, 7-0 lead. LaSalle, really good Division II team. And they're at the 20-yard line, so they lost a couple of yards there. And they're going to go backwards a little bit more as there's a whistle.
Nope, that's the end of the first quarter. All right.
Well, let's take a look. That's the end of the first quarter. And let's take a look. This is how they scored. And it's a pass downfield, and that is Jake Seibert. Oh, look at that. Spins out it. Just that. That's not good tackling. It's a heck of a move, though, and great effort as Griffin Merritt to Jake Seibert. Big-time play. 83 yards on that touchdown. And that's how LaSalle took that 7-0 lead. And it is now at the end of the first quarter, I believe. So they'll be getting started in the second quarter after that break. But again, a 6:30 start on this game.
Griffin does a lot of things for the Lancers offense, and last week he didn't have a single touchdown pass. So I think that's probably one of the key things that the offense said, look, hey, we need to get on. We need to try to put some touchdowns up in the air tonight to see if we want to try to get this win. And again, also, I mean, they play St. Xavier. They played last year's Division I state champ, so obviously they were going to run into a buzzsaw there. But you know, great sign to see the Fighting Irish, the Lancers. Ahead right now.
And they beat St. Xavier last year, so it's not like it's a one-sided rivalry. And they've beaten Coleraine, a D1 playoff team in Region 4 as well.
And St. Vincent St. Mary has to be a little bit concerned here, guys, because you're talking about a team that has lost 2 of the last 3. Now Division 3, Region 9, if you start looking at 7, 8, 9, 10, all of those playoff teams bunched at the very bottom. You've got Chardon right there. You've got Kenston, Aurora on the outside looking in. So there are teams down there hovering at the very bottom that could leapfrog St. Vincent St. Mary if they continue to stumble.
Yeah, and we had mentioned Aurora when they lost their 4th game. We thought they might be out of the playoffs. They're still alive. If they win out, and they do have to win out now, but they have a chance to win out and hop back into the bottom half of that 8 where they would be on the road, but they would continue that playoff streak.
No, absolutely, and that's not the only game that we're going to be kind of watching some of how these playoff pictures go on right now. But, you know, just definitely keep in mind, talking about, Chris, when we were talking about that St. Vincent St. Mary situation right now, early in the game, a lot of fans didn't get to see if they were watching the game. But, you know, there were a lot of flags, a lot of, you know, things that Fighting Irish, you know, shouldn't be doing against the LaSalle football team to get themselves down already. So right now, Fighting Irish, you know, we're going to see what happens in this red zone situation right now when they come back in the quarter. But they've got to score.
It's the time of year when the pressure starts building and you start thinking about potentially missing the playoffs. You're not playing very well. 2 of the last 3 losses. Your only win in that stretch is against 0-7 North. So got to start getting some momentum, especially because St. Vincent St. Mary doesn't get easier to finish off. Ursuline's having a down year, but Massillon, Washington waiting on the schedule next week.
Yeah, and again, you know, that's kind of what it is for St. Vincent St. Mary. As a very good, smaller Catholic school, you've got to schedule up because not a lot of teams in Division III that are public schools are willing to play you.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why it's so critical for the Fighting Irish to get a win tonight is because they're right now, when the computer rankings came out after this week, they were ranked number 7. And Chardon, who's we're going to talk about tonight, is right behind them. So they need to get a win tonight. They need to be able to help themselves in this playoff hunt right now. And it doesn't help that you're facing the Division II state champion from last year and back-to-back year. And
actually, they had to settle for a field goal, so it's now 10-0 LaSalle leading St. Vincent St. Mary. So second quarter action, 10-0 LaSalle up on St. Vincent St. Mary. Another game that we had talked about is that Division I Region 1 battle with Mentor going to Solon, and Solon really needing this one. There's 9 teams in Division I Region 1 that are pretty much locked into those 8 spots. Solon and Perry from Massillon Way are really the 8-9, and unless something unforeseen happens where somebody knocks off somebody and upsets them in the last couple of weeks, one of those teams is going to make the playoffs, and one of the teams isn't going to make the playoffs. And here is a live look-in as it's picked off. Tatis Tatarunas, and Mason picks it off. A great job of stepping up and intercepting that by Andrew Mason. Read the play, just picked it off, and exactly what the Solon Comets needed is he just read that play. He knew. That's a good job of coaching by that defensive staff because Andrew Mason recognized the route tree, jumped the route, gets the pickoff, and now Solon has the ball in Menor territory.
For the Comets, that's a great sign because, one, you're coming in as last year's Greater Cleveland Conference champions, and Menor is kind of knocking on that door as well as you could, like, hey, we want this title this year. But here's the funny thing. Solon can actually potentially force a three-way tie right now. But right now, first of all, they need to see if they can try to get some points on the board, and that's the first thing that they need to do.
What does head coach Jim McQuaid always say every time anybody interviews him at the end of the game? Defense. Defense is our backbone. You can talk about our offense all you want to, but we understand who we are. We understand what we have to do to win. It's always, always, always about the defense. And there's the defense setting up Solon's offense in great, great field position. I think the Comets might have found something offensively. They were down 27-0 last week against Euclid. 28 unanswered points. They had another chance late in the game for a go-ahead touchdown. It was intercepted in the end zone. But since that loss against Stowe in week 3, Solon is averaging 29 points per game on offense. So if they get that offense to start complementing the defense, suddenly you've got a team that could be right back in the mix.
And the other thing that it does is it allows Solon to potentially start trying to run the football.
Yep.
They want to run the football, and in years past, that's been a little bit of an Achilles heel for the Menor defenses, stopping the run. And that's obviously going to be a mindset of Mentor's defense. We need to stop the run. And obviously with Thomas Wilkes, Solon wants to get the run rolling.
Yeah, Thomas Wilkes was like non-existent for the last couple of weeks just because they've gotten themselves kind of in this situation where, they're going to have to, try to put as many points as possible, with the short amount of time that they have. So, again, it's a great sign to kind of see that the defense is stepping up to try to help the Comets in this game because they're going to need it against Menor who can, put up a lot of points in a short amount of time.
Absolutely. And, you get ahead, you kind of run the clock. That's always good stuff. Another game that we'll be covering, Barberton and Talmadge. And Barberton, a team unbeaten on the year. Talmadge has one loss. So this is an interesting matchup. Barberton's answered the call a couple of times. They ended up beating St. Vincent St. Mary a week ago. That huge win for that program. They're on their way back to the playoffs and looking at hosting as long as they take care of business the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I'm really curious. I'm going to talk about the Talmadge situation here. Ty Shannon, who had over 200 yards last week and 2 touchdowns. I'm really curious to see about this running back here. And the defense is not allowing a lot of points to offenses this year. So, man, I've just been really kind of curious just to how they've been able to put this piece together. And right now, Barberton's also in a situation where if they want to wrap up the American division, they have an opportunity to do so.
Barberton quarterback Zane Reese said last week that Barberton feels disrespected, despite the fact that here they are 7-0. You look at the rankings and you look at what people are saying about Barberton, and it's not talking in glowing terms the way that other people are talking about some 7-0 teams. So they have some motivation. This is a team that obviously is coming off a huge win against St. Vincent St. Mary, Aurora the week before, but still, despite those wins, Zane Reese is saying, hey, how about us? What about us? Talk about us a little bit more. Here's another chance against 6-1 Talmadge.
And don't you think their opponents don't even realize that? Like, I mean, they want to get a win as well, but they know how great Barberton has come across after last year and how they've been able to jump out to a 7-0 start here. So this should be a great game. Again, I think Barberton also, in the same way Talmadge does, they have kind of eyes on their league title as well.
Well, you mentioned Zane Reese, quarterback for Barberton. 20 touchdown passes, 0.
Right.
0 interceptions on the year. That when you're in week 8 and you haven't thrown a pick and you've thrown 20 touchdown passes, he's doing pretty well.
And look, Talmadge held Copley to just 63 yards passing last week. But again, this is a different kind of test when you're talking about Zane Reese and the numbers that he can put up for that offense. So it'll be a very interesting test of can that Talmadge passing defense that was so good 1 week ago hang.
Well, and Solon missed a field goal opportunity, so it's scoreless. Menor has the ball back. So the Comets couldn't capitalize on the defense that set them up on a short field. So concerning if you're a Comet faithful, but again, very early in that game.
Tough to leave points on the board against Menor, though.
I mean, the Cardinals. I mean, just in that last play that we saw. I mean, they were that close to the end zone. Why couldn't they capitalize on that? And they don't need that against the Cardinals because the Cardinals, they can go 90 yards, 80 yards down the field and score. But the Comets don't need that situation right now. And I mean, we're just going to kind of see what happens and how all this plays out. But like I said, even coming into this game, I felt like Menor had the advantage coming into this game, but Solon, or prove me wrong, they got to be able to make field goals and they got to be able to score.
Well, and Menor got the ball back and is now moving it downfield. Couple of pass plays, and the Menor Cardinals now have the ball at the 35-yard line of Solon, and Tadas Tatarunas gets sacked. A nice job defensively, as Leskovic gets the sack for Solon. Nate Leskovic has been a multi-year starter for the Solon's defense, and gets the sack. Every time we look in, Tadas Tatarunas is not liking us there.
Second time we've looked in, second defensive play for Solon. Get used to it.
Loss of 6, so it's second down and 16. You see 5 wide receivers. Not a shock there for the Menor Cardinals. And all kinds of time for Tatarunas, but not a lot of choices. Throws underneath, and it's complete. That's Logan Shea. So pretty good job as Tatarunas buys some time, completes the pass to Logan Shea, and it's third and short, third and 6.
And what did you say that Jim McQuaid said some time ago about defense? That's exactly. I mean, they're going to have to win this game on that defense, because right now, you know, the offense has been kind of subject in the last couple of weeks. And even though they put up a lot of points against Euclid in that short period of time, but right now I think the defense said, look, man, we need to really take this responsibility and try to stop Tadas in this game here. So.
And you saw a couple of those plays after the interception. Not necessarily seeing ghosts, but maybe not seeing the field as well as Tadas usually does. The one time he held it, seemed like he had an open guy, but he was holding it a little bit long, and then the other time he took a sack. So if you start making plays early on in a game, you can start getting in the head of the opposing quarterback, and maybe some things are a little bit cloudy for him.
Here we are, and Tatarunas keeps it on a little zone read, and he gets inside the 5 down to the 3. So it's going to be second and goal from the 3 for the Menor Cardinals, trying to put the first points on the board. And Menor, their reason for needing this is to get a home game in the first round of the playoffs. They're pretty solidly in that top 5 or 6. They want to get into the top 4. And there's Edmonds. Chris Edmonds dives in for the end zone. He had the long run that set that up. And Chris Edmonds gets into the end zone. And Mentor takes a 6-0 lead, point after coming. And Solon going to have to play from behind again this week, it looks like.
No, you're exactly right what you said as far as where Menor fits into this equation right now. They have a potentially a home field. If they were to play today, they would be able to host a game at number 4 right now. But Solon right now, they're outside that top 8 right now, and that's what they're trying to fight for. They're trying to get a spot back in there. And now, mind you, also we want to go back to Chris Edmond, had over 104 yards last week, 2 touchdowns. So he's obviously a key piece here for the Cardinals to see if they can get a win against the Comets.
And Dave, as you mentioned, it's Division I, Region 1. You're looking for any kind of edge that you can get in the first round of the playoffs, because you're going to be playing against a big boy. You're going to have a tough matchup. And for Menor, getting a home game at the JTO where they are even more explosive on that turf, that could be the difference between them winning round 1 and losing round 1.
Well, the other thing is somewhere around 6-7, you're going to see St. Ignatius or St. Ed's.
Yep.
Because the way they finish, you know, St. Ignatius plays Moeller tonight, St. Xavier next week, Eds.
Yep.
So right now, Eds and Ignatius are 1-2. One of those 2 could very well drop down to 3, 4, and then all of a sudden you're looking at, you know, hey, we finished 6th in the region. We get to play St. Ed's or St. Ignatius.
Exactly.
That's a very tough way to go.
And mind you, one team that in that same conference that we haven't hinted on here was Euclid as well. They're kind of in that middle as well. You know, they have a playoff spot right now, so I'm curious just to see how this is going to, again, play this out tonight. But right now, Menor's on the board, and right now, Solon needs to be able to find an answer scoring. So
yeah, and Euclid's win over Solon last week kind of vaulted them up and kind of put Solon down in the danger zone where they need to take care of business. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will return with more of Friday Night Huddle here on cleveland.com along with Chris Fedor, Nate Klein. I'm Dave Bacon. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
this city, this club stands with you.
Danger from Mira!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are two outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contepelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your Access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
High school sports, Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post Match. Only on Spectrum Sports. Wednesday nights. Get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle as we get set to recap things that are going on here in Week 8 of high school football all across Buckeye State, along with Chris Fedor from cleveland.com, Nate Klein from cleveland.com. I'm Dave Bacon. Guys, let's take a look back at the top 15 and how the voting finished up for Week 7. As we always do, we look back at the top 15 plays. Number 15, Solon High School quarterback J.T. Caver connects with Trayvon Raphael, breaks one, makes the move, then takes off, picks up a block, 55 yards for the touchdown.
And the point.
Plenty more from this game in the top plays.
Moving on to number 14, how about Tippecanoe? This is running back Cole Barhorst with a big hole, plowing through defenders, and a 57-yard touchdown run. The Red Devils, though, lost to Sydney 49-42.
Did somebody say Sydney? Well, check out here Isaiah Bowser with a 73-yard touchdown run for the Yellow Jackets. He's running. Check him out. Oh, yeah. Yellow Jackets 49-42 win against Tippecanoe. Bowser scored with less than 2 minutes to play in the final quarter.
And Hoban, running back Tyrus Dickerson at number 12. It's an 11-yard touchdown run. The Knights, no problem at all, beating Padua.
Checking in at number 11, it's Dublin Jerome's Hayden Shell throwing it up. Up, 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 knock it down. No! Got it! How about that? Ryan Keyes comes down with it. The Celtics a 34-13 winner over Delaware Hayes.
Camp McKinley is number 3 right now with the spot in the playoffs here if it were to start. But check out Javon Lewis here with runs into the pile. And look, he escapes. Takes 30 yards for a touchdown. Bulldogs win 35-23 against Jackson.
Number 9, it's that guy again. JT Caver swings it out. Grant McCurry takes off down the numbers. 38 yards for the touchdown pass. Still more from Caver a little later.
Number 8, Trotwood Madison quarterback Markel Stevens Peppers. He's going to hook up with Dallas Daniels. It's a short throw. Daniels does the rest. Down the sidelines, cuts it back in. 73-yard touchdown in the Rams' 76-6 win against Fairborn.
Check out Caver with this 45-yard run here. Take a look at this with the keeper. Running against Euclid here.
Quite a hole.
Yeah, but the Comets lost 33-28.
Checking in at number 6, St. Xavier quarterback Chase Wolf. Right on the money to Andrew Whitrock. You can't throw it any better than that. 61 yards for the touchdown. The Men of X win it 42-7 over LaSalle.
Whew. Number 5, Archbishop Hoban. This is quarterback Shane Ham looking for his go-to receiver, Garrett Hauser. Little swing pass in the flat, and Hauser does the rest. That's why he's the go-to target. Hauser, 62-yard touchdown. Knights win it 49-10 over Padua.
Congratulations to the Knights with this win. But here, take a look at this. Robbie Levox scrambles from the defense and connects with Ty Evans for a 16-yard touchdown pass. Woo. More from Nordonia and Levox later.
Number 3, North Royalton quarterback Joey Morosic. A nice one on the money to Miles Sternad, 25 yards for the touchdown. Take a look at this. Keeps his feet in. Perfect. But the Bears fell to Wadsworth, 61-28.
This is number 2. It got 27% of the vote. This is Euclid's Aubrey Shabazz over the shoulder to Javon Owens Jr. 18-yard touchdown. The Panthers won 33-28 over Solon.
And probably one of the biggest upsets last week, Nordonia here with 44% of the vote. Robbie Levox to Brendan O'Donnell with the 21-yard touchdown pass. Knights won 30-27 over the Brecksville Bees. That was a sting.
First win of the year for the Nordonia Knights. Okay, if you have a play, record it on your phone. Put it up on Twitter. Hashtag FNH Top Plays. Hashtag FNH Top Plays. After the games are over, we will have the top 15 this week. You can go to cleveland.com and vote on them starting at noon tomorrow, and it'll run through noon on Thursday. You can vote as often as you like. So if you have a player from your team, get out there and vote.
Come on, Dublin Jerome, what are you doing? Your man had a bouncing catch. It was up for grabs. It bounced off of him, went up in the air again, and he hauled it in. I mean, that is one of the plays of the year, and it came in at number 11. You got to stack the vote here, Dublin Jerome.
Let's check in. St. Vincent St. Mary taking on the LaSalle Lancers, and St. Vincent St. Mary driving, and they're going to settle for a field goal, it looks like, trying to get on the board. As it's going to be about a 25-yard field goal. 22-yard field goal. Down 10-0, and it is no good. They missed the chip shot. Tough angle as it was near hash mark, but missed it. So
And he's a lefty.
you can't leave points on the board against the LaSalle Lancers or any good team. So SVSM still down 10-0. And speaking of 10-0, Mentor has added 3 more, so they are now ahead of Solon 10-0 as well.
How often do we talk about special teams? Special teams, special teams. Punt return for a touchdown, kick return for a touchdown, sparking the offense, or sometimes field goal late in the game, winning the game, or a field goal here, missing. You can't leave points on the board, especially this time of year against these kinds of opponents.
And for this particular case with the Fighting Irish facing LaSalle and the offense is not doing well right now, that special team needs to be able to cooperate with scoring. So, hopefully the Fighting Irish will be able to get a chance back, try to get on the scoreboard again. But right now, LaSalle, there's a reason why they won last year's state championships, and they know how to make sure they put the foot on the gas.
And having said that, tough angle, but again, when you get sent out there for a short one, you can't leave points on the field like that. So 10-0 LaSalle leading, and again, that game approaching halftime as it was a 6:30 kickoff. So that one's a little ahead of the other games as well going on tonight. Another game that we've talked a little bit about, Padua and Benedictine, and Benedictine had that big win, and then they follow it up with a game where they turn the ball over 5 times in the first half, and they end up losing to Lake Catholic. I mean, you got to string good games together. When you come back and they had a great win against NDCL, you can't come back and lose to a team that, in theory, you should beat.
Yeah, and Benedictine is in fairly good shape right now as far as the playoffs concerned. So obviously a win would be a real big help here. One of the keys that I'm looking at in this game is their running back from Padua, Trenton Kramer. Congratulations to him, over 1,000 yards already rushing. But I feel like if it gets to a point where they're going to have to start grinding out this game, he's going to have to be a key to that. And obviously their quarterback also has a great arm as well that can keep them in the game. But I'm looking at this Trent Kramer and how he's going to fit into this equation tonight.
Well, we had talked a little bit about the Solon defense, and the Comets defense is at it again as Tadas Tatarunas wants to throw, and this one's deflected and picked off. And that was just not a good pass.
Yeah. Seemed like he had time to throw, too. So much about Mentor is timing.
McCurry picks it off, Ryan McCurry. As Grant McCurry we had seen last week catching the football, Ryan McCurry gets the interception there for the Comets.
I'm sure during the break I'm going to probably look to see how Mentor fared against St. Ignatius. We'll go back to this game here.
Here we go, as it's now 3rd down and 10 from the 28, and that's complete. Raphael, touchdown. So a real good job of answering as Trayvon Raphael gets into the end zone, and that makes it a point after coming. If they make the point after, makes it a 3-point game. So this time, the turnover hurts on the scoreboard.
That's what you like from Solon, too. Quick change of possession. Don't throw a little dinky 5-yarder. Don't hand the ball off. Go for it. Go down the field. You've got some playmakers on the outside. Use them. And that's a great, great response by Solon after the defense makes yet another play.
And a heck of a pass by J.T. Caver. I mean, he put it in right in the window, right to Raphael, and Raphael did his thing, got into the end zone. So the point after is converted, in fact, so it is a 3-point deficit for the Comets. So just what they needed.
And
Got to get on
Caver's
the
been
board.
playing well lately. That's the quarterback that Solon was looking for at the beginning of the season. Didn't know maybe that they had at the beginning of the season. 255 yards passing last week against Euclid. And as I said, since that loss against Stowe in Week 3 when the offense was shut down, only 14 points for that Solon offense in Week 3, averaging just about 30 per game. When you have that kind of offense with that defense, then suddenly you can hang with a team like Mentor. You're not going to win a game against Mentor if you're scoring 14 points or 17 points. It's just not going to go that way because Mentor's offense averages 45 a game. So you know you're going to have to put up points. And Caver, if he keeps making passes like that, he's going to show that he's up to the challenge.
Yeah, and this we were looking at it between breaks. We were talking about that onslaught, the Comets trying to avoid that Mentor onslaught. So far, I mean, they're doing a good job of that, trying to keep this game close. But guess what, folks? If they can continue to keep this going on defense and try to put some more offense, guess what we're going to start seeing? We're going to start seeing Thomas Wilkes causing the Cardinals some problems in the running game.
And Solon has won the last 2 meetings against Mentor. So suddenly if you're Menor, that starts creeping into your mind a little bit too.
And again, Menor, you want to, if you're in Division I, Region 1, you want a home playoff game. You want to be in the top 4 because that more likely than not means you avoid St. Ignatius and St. Ed's in week 1 of the playoffs. You're eventually going to have to face them, but you delay it as long as possible.
Yep.
Because those are 2 of the top 3-4 teams in the state.
Yeah, and Solon had to face St. Ignatius last year in the playoffs in Menor. So, you know, I don't know. For some reason, all these teams are just tied together, although they're the same region as well. But just anything you can do to kind of help yourselves, 1, get in the playoffs, and then 2, to kind of help your kind of playoff seeding and try to avoid some of those big powerhouse teams, you know, help yourself, help the case. So.
Another game that we're keeping an eye on, the Perry Pirates, so taking on Orange. Perry, a team, smaller school, very, very good, you know. Colston Brewster getting it done again as the quarterback for that Perry Pirate offense.
So the situation with Perry, they're in the playoff situation right now. They're doing really well, but right now, you know, not to overlook any of the other teams that they have to play in the next couple of weeks, but they've got their mind on Steubenville. That was the team that knocked them out last year, and they want to be able to say, hey, look, we want to get back to that point. It's been a long time since Perry, even at that, been able to make it that deep into the playoffs. So the Pirates right now, they have their goal in mind right now, and they're playing like that right now. So.
I mean, this is a team that has yet to have a game decided by single digits. That tells you how good Perry has been so far against their schedule, averaging 52 points per game on offense, so they can light it up with the best of them. They got tested last week, and they won by 12. I think that tells you all you need to know about the challenge that Orange is facing, and Orange has not beaten Perry since 2011.
Well, our Bryant Kaiser is covering this game, and he joins us via the phone. Bryant, what's going on with the Orange Lions and the Perry Pirates?
This might be one of those first 1 to 50 games.
Usually is with Perry.
Right now, with a minute to go in the first quarter, it is Orange 21, Perry Pirates 13.
No.
And it is 1 block extra point that separates that 14 points. But they go up and down the field. I just had a 37-yard touchdown pass for Orange, and that's what we got right now. They didn't score. We got like 58 seconds to go in the first quarter. It's Orange 21, Perry 13.
Hey, Brian, this is Nate Studio. Hey, quick question about Orange. You know, what's your analysis of this team right now?
Well, Perry Pirates, you know, they have won 18 consecutive games, regular season games. They only, you know, they lost to Steubenville last year. But, you know, I got a good quarterback in Colston Brewster. He has 20 touchdowns and only 1 interception. He just threw his 21st touchdown today, an 80-yarder to a very good receiver. And they got defensive-wise, Beechwood hit him first. Orange hit him first with an 80-yard touchdown run. So this is going to be one of those good ones.
And Brian, you were talking about Perry and just, you know, what they bring to the table. You know, but what about Orange? You know, obviously they've for a reason they've gotten to this point, and they're knocking on the door with the playoffs right now. What are your thoughts about them at all?
Yeah, they're knocking on the door of the playoffs. They haven't beat Perry in like 5 or 6 years, but they looking at the chops. They need to get this victory because the next 2 games you would call quote unquote winnable games, but you want to get this game right here. And Orange right now they looking ready, but their defense got to tighten that defense a little bit. You know, their 80-yard touchdown pass is like one of those. The defender didn't come over to cover the receiver on the corner 2. He forgot, and then the guy was wide open. So that's where we're at right now.
Hey, Brian, any turnovers in that? You mentioned all the points. Has anybody turned the ball over, or is it just big plays and the offense kind of dominating?
Only on the kickoff.
All right, Brian. Well, we'll talk to you. I'm sure you're going to have another 3.5, 4-hour game with all the scoring that's gone on. So I tell you, we send you to the crazy ones, so we'll check back in with you as the night goes on.
Maybe the first one to 60. I don't know.
There you go. They might outscore their basketball teams tonight.
Yeah.
All right, Bryant Kaiser with the Perry and Orange update. A lot of points being put up on the board in the first quarter.
Yeah, and just because Orange hasn't done as well against Perry, I was really curious just about Orange and how they've gotten to this point in the season. I mean, right now they're number 5. They will make, at this point, if they were to start tonight, they would make the playoffs, but they wouldn't be able to have a home field advantage. But right now they're kind of trailing the Oberlin Firelands, so they're trying to help themselves in this case. Now Perry is a big task to beat against, but Orange, I just really like to see what they've done in the first 7 weeks here.
Orange is playing really well, too. They're coming off the win against West G at West G last week. That was the first time they've gone into West G and beaten West G since 1988. Think about that. So you build some confidence with that kind of signature win, and then you go in and you play against Perry, and you're thinking, hey, maybe possibly we can do this thing. We've got the offense. We can keep up. So we'll see what happens. Our quarterback is a dual-threat guy, had 4 touchdowns last week. Maybe we can make some things happen and light up the scoreboard just like them.
Well, another game that we are checking in on is Barberton taking on Talmadge. Talmadge, a 3-0 lead in this game. The Barberton Magic offense gets it going, though. Zane Reese buys some time, throws at his favorite receiver, Garrett Turnbaugh. Grabs it in the corner of the end zone. And point after was no good, though, so it is 6-3. Zane Reese's 21st touchdown pass of the season. Gives the Magic a 6-3 lead as they try to stay perfect on the year against one-loss Talmadge.
I'm not too surprised about Garrett catching that pass for the touchdown because he had over 100 yards receiving last week. My big surprise is just the score right now here in the second quarter. Barberton is very capable of putting up quite a bit of points, so I'm very surprised about that. But I guess it kind of just shows about the Blue Devils. Like, there's a reason why they're 6-1 at this point. So
lone loss to Aurora.
Yep, by 1 point.
Right. It was missed extra point as well.
Hey, so what do we talk about?
That's kind of the win that kind of lifted Aurora back into the playoff possibilities there in Division 3.
But to your point, Nate, I mean, this is a Barberton offense that has yet to score less than 34 points in a game. So if you look up and you see the scoreboard and it's 6-3 and you're Talmadge, you're thinking, okay, all right. Very nice. This is the kind of pace that we want. This is the kind of game that we want. This is the kind of game that maybe we can win.
Yeah, the challenge is that Barberton defense gets overlooked a little bit because the offense is putting up so many points. So let's see how they manage that. It has a way of snowballing and they have a way of scoring in a hurry. The defense stops, the offense does it, and it just keeps snowballing. At least this year.
And I'm wondering maybe at the beginning of this game, maybe they were just trying to feel each other out since all the wins have started piling up and they're coming into this game. I was wondering, but no, the Talmadge defense. I mean, they're no slouch either. So this game maybe be very close. But like I said, I'm just really kind of curious just why Barberton is only at 6-3 in the second quarter here. So,
6-3, they're winning.
Win is a win.
Trying to keep the 0 over there on the in the loss column. So, the other game that we talked very briefly about, Chardon and Brush. And that's an interesting one because the loser of that falls into danger. Yep. You may not get into the top 8 at the end of the year.
I mean, for the Arcs, it's pretty simple. Score a bunch of points and you got a chance to win because in both of their losses, they failed to crack 13 points. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the area, Godwin Joe. But I think this game lost a little bit of juice because Brush lost the game last week against East Lake North. Otherwise, we'd probably be talking about this as maybe even a bigger game. But at the same time, you've got Chardon here. Chardon's borderline. You look at that playoff picture in Division 3, Region 9, they're sitting there at 8th. They've got 1 loss on the season, but it's hard for them to compile the computer points. So every single game is very, very important, especially when you're talking about Chardon. 2 different styles here. You got ground and pound. You got run and gun. So if all of a sudden Brush gets off to a good start and Godwin Joe starts making plays in the passing game, Chardon a little bit uncomfortable with getting behind, who knows what could happen.
I'll try to make a short story, a long story into a short one.
But you can make a short story long. That's okay too.
We've got a couple hours.
but
we're gonna go get some popcorn.
But I got a chance to see the Hilltoppers during the summer, and as I was watching them, it was like they were preparing their first team offense and their second team offense. And I said, man, if anything ever happens to some of these guys in the first team, they look like they got some guys that could step in, and that's exactly what happened last week. They lost Chardon lost their running back, their quarterback, make sure I get it right, their quarterback, their running back, their fullback. They lost all three of those guys last week, and my big question was just how, if they were going to be available come week 8. But in the meantime, they had some guys step in, still get that win against Willoughby South last week, and right now they're trying to get a share of that Western Reserve Conference title right now. So, hats off to, the coaching staff for getting those guys ready. And I think the coach was even surprised, even in his quote, that he was like, man, hey, these guys rose to the occasion. So,
well, if Chardon gets this one tonight, that could be conference championship, because then they've got a 2-game lead if they get the win against Brush. So for them, obviously, it starts there. Then you start talking about the playoffs. They haven't missed the playoffs since 2013. So those are the goals, and they're right there in line for Chardon. But it means beating Brush tonight.
And for Brush, the defense has been a concern. They know they can score points. They know what Godwin Joe's going to do. Coach Fink was pretty upfront about it. I need my defense to play the way I think they can, and we'll see if they can get that done against a pretty good running attack in the Chardon Hilltoppers.
I was just taking a look here. Brush, number 6, taking the top 8 teams in each region. And then right now we have Chardon at number 8, who's trailing St. Vincent St. Mary in their region, in Region 9. So, again, this gets back to our first conversation when we first started the show. Playoffs, let's just start thinking right now. The playoffs are starting right now, and you need to win every game possible to help yourself in the situation zone.
Chardon drops down from Division II, where they had to deal with Hudson, Mayfield, Aurora, like all of those teams to get into the postseason picture. And now here they are dealing with Buckeye and Talmadge and NDCL and St. Vincent St. Mary, as you mentioned. So even though they dropped down a division, they're still in a loaded division where every single time you go out there, you basically have to win. Again, this is a one-loss team sitting 8th in their division. That's how stacked it is.
And another game that we touched on earlier, Olmstead Falls taking on Midview.
Yes.
Midview's lone loss is to Avon, so it'll be interesting to see. This is kind of contrasting styles as well. Midview kind of blows up scoreboards. Olmstead Falls runs the ball predominantly, although they'll throw it more than in the past. But, it's a throw the ball over the yard against a more traditional offense.
Seamus Higley and Connor Wolf, those are the 2 key pieces in the Middy's offense there. But, looking at the numbers and looking at how many points that each team is giving up, you would favor Midview in this particular game here. But right now, obviously, we've talked earlier about Avon
what you said
taking
going into the playoffs last year?
Yeah. So, I think I'm kind of looking at the Middies right now. I feel like this is a game that for them. This should be a tune-up game for them. I think in order to get ready for the playoffs. But Olmstead Falls, they're also knocking on that door as well. They want to try to see if they can get another shot at it again.
You know me. Stories, right? 2 years ago, the 2 teams played in the playoffs. Last year, the 2 teams played in the playoffs. If the season ended today, the 2 teams would be playing in the first round of the playoffs. So it comes full circle with these guys. And if you're Midview, you lost last year in the playoffs to Olmstead Falls. That ended Dustin Crum's career at Midview. It was a dropped pass in the end zone. So a lot of bad feelings from that one. And Midview came into the season, guys, thinking, hey, we're going to lean on our defense experience there. We're going to lean on our running game with Connor Wolf. And here comes Seamus Higley lighting up the scoreboard like he's Dustin Crum. So getting that, Midview has been able to sustain what they had done in past years.
And you mentioned, that the Olmstead Falls beating Midview. That was the region where all the first 4 seeds lost to 5, 6, 7, and 8 in that entire region. None of the home teams won in the first round of the playoffs, which is kind of interesting. That doesn't happen very often.
And look, this Olmstead Falls team is on a 5-game winning streak, and their offense is averaging 48 points per game in that 5-game winning streak. Last week, they had 7 touchdowns rushing the ball.
Right.
So yes, you're right. Difference in styles, and sometimes when you're playing against a team that has that different style, it can be different for you. It can get scary. That's how Olmstead Falls did it last year. Spencer Linville on the ground, keeping the ball out of the hands of Crum, running between the tackles, tough, physical. Sometimes spread teams don't like playing that style.
And if you're Olmstead Falls, you love that because
sure.
You want to throw the ball, you're going to have to wait till we get done running it.
Yeah, exactly.
and oh, by the way, we take a little bit longer to score. So you shorten the game,
Yep.
And if you're a running team, that's what you want to do, without question.
Yeah, and Olmstead Falls, I'm wondering if they're coming into this game, they know the situation with the playoffs right now, and I'm just wondering, are they going to come in with just a little bit more motivation to try to win this game as opposed to Midview? But Midview's been here. They've been to this point. They've been ahead. They've won the conference before. So I'm just really curious just to see who's going to be able to shine in this game, because obviously both teams can put up a lot of points, but Midview is just kind of favored right now with their defense and just how many points they're allowing each game.
Yeah, you know, again, the challenge with some of the spread teams is, can your defense do enough to not put the offense in a hole? And that's kind of the question that you always have. And to a certain extent, even Avon has been that question along with Midview. Avon's defense has really stepped up the last couple of years. Having said that, they were one of those teams that got upset by a point by Avon Lake in the playoffs a year ago. But again, it's an interesting matchup just from style and history and those kind of things, those standpoints.
Yeah, and those two teams, I mean, they're going to need to make sure that they clean up whatever mistakes they need to now if one of those two teams or both even get in the playoffs, because the number one seed in the region right now is who? Avon. Avon's probably projected right now to even finish the conference winning that title this year. So, you know, they need to do whatever they can to kind of clean up now if either the team makes it to the playoffs.
And the only loss so far this year for Midview, Avon. The only loss so far this year for Olmstead Falls,
Avon.
Avon's
beaten a lot of teams, though. They're pretty highly thought of in Division II. Well, the Mentor Cardinals offense back at it again as they are taking on the Solon Comets. And here it is from the 44-yard line. Tadas Tatarunas finds Floria wide open. A nice job of finding the seam, and there's a touchdown that will push it to a 10-point lead. The point after was good. 17-7 the score.
Poor safety. He was caught in no man's land. He had somebody to his left, somebody to his right, and he's like, which one do I get? I can't cover both.
So, you know the Cardinals are going to score. You got to answer them. And the other thing is you kind of try to minimize the 40, 45-yard variety touchdowns. And, you know, you make them execute, make them earn it more by, you know, pick up first downs. If you're giving up the big plays, because their offensive scheme is going to find a way to get the 6-7 yard completions. You want to minimize the deep ones.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried about Solon because, I mean, earlier in the game we saw a couple picks already, and then last week we saw them be able to come back from that large deficit against Euclid. So I'm really not too scared about Solon getting too far behind and not being able to catch up. But obviously, Mentor's another different type of beast, and they probably even want to definitely win this Greater Cleveland Conference title as well against the defending champs.
But Dave, I think you make a really good point. I feel like that's something that you have to understand going into a game against Mentor. Look, we're going to give up points. We're going to give up big plays. It's going to happen. We have to understand that. We have to be tough enough mentally to be able to overcome those things and not allow that to get us down.
Well, one of the games we've been talking about, Padua and Benedictine tied at 3, and the Padua Bruins offense from the 25-yard line. Butler finds Colin Pavlich. One arm. Looked like pass interference. It looked like the DB had his hand. Colin Pavlich, one arm grab in the end zone on the touchdown throw from Drew Butler.
Woo! Why have two when you can use one?
10-3, Padua leading. And Kevin Peterson, the normal quarterback, must be banged up. So Drew Butler getting it done.
It's my Week 8 top play. I haven't even seen the rest. How do you top that? Dude's getting his arm held. There was no flag either. Getting his arm held down. He's like, doesn't matter. I got the right one. It's fun.
He didn't throw the flag. He caught it.
Right.
I don't need to throw the flag.
I mean, my goodness. What a catch.
Yeah, no, the Bruins are looking really good, and there's a reason why they're as far as ahead they did. Now, last week after that loss to Hoban, and I hate to bring that catch down at this point, but just after that loss last week, they dropped a little bit in some of the rankings. But this is still a very tough team, and so long as they can try to stick together in these last few weeks, get a playoff spot, they're going to make some noise.
Yeah, you got to grade on the curve when you're playing Hoban.
Thank you. And the coach did after the game.
Yeah, I mean, you really do. I mean, there's the little bell-shaped curve. There's Hoban, and then there's the rest of everybody else that's kind of in that conference.
Right. And head coach Mike Polovasic said, quote, "We're not a bad team, but we're not that upper echelon team right now." That's putting in perspective for your guys. Like, look, guys, okay, we're pretty good here. We're 6-1, but Hoban's Hoban.
Right.
All right, we're trying to get to where Hoban is, and there are steps that we have to take in order to do that. I mean, this is a program that hasn't made the playoffs since 2010, so don't let that one get you down. Don't focus on 49-10. We can come back. We're still alive in this playoff mix. Let's get a win here against Benedictine, maybe close it out against Lake Catholic and DCL, then we're in the postseason.
Well, 16-13, Moeller is leading St. Ignatius down at Otterbein in Columbus. And the Wildcats kicking out of their own end zone. And a high floating kick. Oh, KO.
Special teams.
RJ KO. Oh, RJ KO with a punt return for the touchdown. Look at Moeller. Moeller with a 22-13 lead now after the punt return for a touchdown by RJ KO, and now a 10-point lead. So this is one that not many people saw coming. Moeller playing with their quarterback who has been banged up and not playing, Miles McBride, who had 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, great ratio, has been hurt and hadn't been playing, and they're leading the top-ranked team in the state by many accounts, by most people's accounts, by 10. Now, some people will say Xavier, but...
Yeah. Was that the punter that tried? Because if he would have gotten tackled, if KO would have gotten tackled by the punter, he would have been going down the sidelines, and everybody would have been giving him a hard time. He was not allowing that punter to get him. That was a nice move that he put on him.
Yeah. So is that a top play, too?
I think so. Yes, we're racking them up. We're nice and early. It's not even 8 o'clock, and we've got a bunch to pick from.
Dave, you were talking about Moeller's quarterback situation coming into this game, and they have a new one here. We're trying to get his name, Mitch McKenzie, who, after these few games here, has almost close to 400 passing yards this week. So this team, as many points as they've been giving up coming into this game, this was a team that, you kind of sat back and just said, I just don't know if they're going to be able to handle a Wildcats team coming down there. However, as Chris pointed out, special teams. These plays that you're going to make, this is really going to make a difference. And obviously, we see it right now with a 10-point difference right now in favor of Moeller. So, I'm really curious to see how this game is going to play out, because right now Moeller's also they're in the play. If the playoffs were to start tonight, they're in the playoffs right now. But Ignatius,
yeah, well, they have Eds coming up next week.
Absolutely.
Whitten Woods.
Yeah, so those are. Whitten Woods is right up there. They're up on the top of the curve with Hoban in Division II. So they need to win. They have 3-4 wins, but the schedule that they play is just brutal.
Right.
I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
Right. If you're an Ignatius fan and you're looking at Moeller saying, "How in the world are we losing to a 3-4 football team? What is going on with our Wildcats?" Have no fear. I mean, their loss, the first one, came against an 8-0 team from Kentucky. Then you lose against 7-0 Xavier. As you mentioned, they might be the best team in the state.
Defending state champs.
5-2 LaSalle. Elder, 4-3. That's a deceiving 4-3 because of the schedule that they play. So when you have those kinds of losses, those are your only losses, you're not really the typical 3-4 team. So if you're a Wildcat fan and you're saying, oh my gosh, how are we doing this? That's why.
Well, and the other thing is there's a sense of urgency for Moeller, because Moeller realizes, they got to win.
Oh, yeah.
They got to win a couple.
They can do math down in Cincinnati now. Yeah, they can.
They have the number crunchers. They know. Let's see. We don't win. We're 3-7 ain't going to get it done for us. But if they 4 or 5 wins, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Moeller, I can't stress it enough right now. I mean, they're trailing in that region behind St. Xavier. I believe they're number 6 right now. And to be able to knock off a Wildcats team tonight, that would make a huge impact after week 8 here. So we're just going to kind of just see how this plays out. But the Wildcats, they still have plenty of time to kind of make up this game here.
Well, and the one thing that, halftime adjustments, Chuck Kyle and his staff have been doing it since literally the 1980s. So they're pretty good at adjusting at halftime. So we'll see what adjustments St. Ignatius makes against Moeller. They're very good. They're a very good team at figuring out what defenses are doing to them and changing it. The other thing is they've got a big offensive line, and they've got a ground game that can impose their will. There's no question about it. We've seen that time and time again. Euclid was up on them at halftime. It was a game against Glen Oak at halftime. And in both of those instances, they came out and they ran the football and ran over pretty good opponents.
And if you're from Northeast Ohio, you're starting to think, okay, look, state championship might go through one of those Cincinnati teams because Elder, 2-point loss against Ignatius just a few weeks ago. As we mentioned, St. Xavier. So if you're starting to project forward to the big-time state championship games, state semifinals, those Cincinnati teams are going to be awfully tough for these Northeast Ohio wins.
Well, again, you mentioned special teams. Well, we'll check in on some special teams as here we take a look at it. And again, another punt in the second quarter. And a blocked punt.
The punt is blocked.
Oh, my. So Moeller again with the ball inside the 10 after a blocked punt.
Wow. And it was Ryan Mulaney
Yikes.
who had the fumble recovery touchdown.
There you go. As, again, the Crusaders offense inside the 5. Let's take a look live as they're going to try to stick this in the end zone and make it a bigger hill for St. Ignatius to climb. And we had mentioned backup quarterback is in there. And you see they go with a tight end, Bates, in the backfield as well. Shotgun formation. Quarterback rolls out. Throws. Picked off. Cameron Toppin. A good job of undercutting the route. And the cavalry comes riding in as Cameron Toppin. That's his 5th interception of the year. And to say he was waiting on that route was a little bit of an understatement. It's pretty good coaching. They read that perfectly.
I'll start. Ladies and gentlemen, when we get ready to go to a highlight, Chris and I don't know what's going on. So when we heard that there was a special teams play happen, I'm like, where is this? What's going on? And so the Wildcats, oh my goodness. I mean, if you want to shoot yourself in the foot, those are 2 good opportunities to be able to do that. Yeah. So to see the Wildcats be able to pick off interception in the end zone there, great sign for them, but my goodness, I mean, that's going to shoot you in the foot with some of those mistakes like that.
To have St. Ignatius make back-to-back blunders on special teams, very atypical. It's usually a 3-phase game for those Wildcats. And then for Moeller, it's first down. It's first down. You're rolling out to the right. You're shortening the field for your quarterback, trying to make an easier read for him. At that point, just throw it away. It's all right. You don't have to force it in the end zone. You got 2 more downs, maybe 3. Who knows? At that point, you want to see your quarterback just throw it away. Don't force it. Not against St. Ignatius. You can't get away with that stuff against St. Ignatius.
So Cameron Toppin comes up with the big play.
And huge.
It's
picking
important
up his
to note,
special teams.
You know, the special teams for St. Ignatius, particularly the kicking game, a huge plus.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew Trickett, who had the punt return and also had the punt blocked, is one of the best kickers in the state. That's the young man that made a 59-yard field goal that probably would have been good from 65 last week against Glen Oak, school record. So to say that the punting game is usually a strength for the Wildcats, a little bit of an understatement. Well, we mentioned another game that we're keeping an eye on, Brush taking on the Chardon Hilltoppers, and the Brush Arcs offense, they're pretty good. Mitchell Kellogg. Oh, look at the hole. Mitchell Kellogg scooting down the sidelines and into the end zone. The Brush Arcs, as we mentioned, need this one to keep those playoffs hopes strong. And a nice touchdown run by Mitchell Kellogg as they take a 7-0 lead on the Chardon Hilltoppers in the second quarter. That's a very good sign for Jeff Think's Brush Arcs that they still have the 0 on the board against a very good running football team in the Chardon Hilltoppers.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the Hilltoppers have seen film on Brush already. They know Goodwin Joe is a big piece to this puzzle for the Arcs. But, you know, to see them get on the scoreboard with another player right now, that was a good sign for them. And also, I mean, right now they're kind of chasing in this region right now. They're chasing Hoban, they're chasing Barberton, they're chasing Hudson right now. So it's a good sign right now. Chardon, you know, it's not too early, it's not too late in the game yet. So right now they have some time to make some adjustments and see if they can try to close this lead here.
And for Chardon, they've been shorthanded a lot this year, guys, and I think that has contributed to an up-and-down offense. You know, in the past, we're used to Chardon putting up big points, even though they run the ball and it's ground and pound. they do it so effectively that they're usually scoring 40, 50, maybe sometimes 60 points. But when you get all these injuries along the offensive line, they were missing 3 starters along the offensive line when they put up 14 points in a loss against Canfield earlier. You mentioned all the losses that they had in last week's game. You start looking and you see these inconsistencies offensively, and it's not what you're used to with Chardon. You don't want to get down too far when you're playing against Brush if you're Chardon, because that offense has not been clicking the way it usually does.
And boy, if Brush can pull this win off tonight, that's really going to cause this Western Reserve Conference to kind of just, maybe force a couple ties here. So we're just going to kind of just see what happens in this game. So
we're going to step aside and take a quick timeout. Things are getting interesting. It's week 8 of high school football. Some playoff pictures are taking shape and some teams trying to cement their playoff resumes. We'll be back here on Friday Night Huddle on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Merrill!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC, Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are 2 outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contebelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your Access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for.
The home school sports. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post-Match. Only on Spectrum Sports. Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle, Week 8 of high school football all across the Buckeye State. St. Ignatius and Moeller in Columbus are now at halftime, still a 10-point lead for the Moeller Crusaders, 23-13. Another game that is approaching halftime. Menor taking on the Solon Comets. Comets needing to come back as they trailed 17-7 in this one. Caver throws into the end zone. Trayvon Raphael, his second touchdown catch of the game, and heck of a job as Raphael got open and Caver put it where he needed to. Second touchdown catch, cuts it to 3 as it's 17-14 with a little under a minute and a half remaining in the first half.
Heck of a job locating it, too. I was looking up at the football as it was coming, and I lost it in the lights. He's actually playing down on the field, and he was able to locate it. And sometimes that's the difference. And if you're Caver, that's the smart thing to do. The cornerback was on the inside, so throw it to the outside and give your wide receiver a chance to make a play. And Raphael's been making plays.
You know, Menor, I'm not too concerned about. You know, I feel like, you know, they'll do what they need to stay ahead in this game. But, you know, even start early in the season, you know, their secondary was something that I had questioned about coming into the year. How effective were they going to be? And so if Solon is finding a way to be able to kind of pick apart that secondary, it's showing tonight so far here. You know, Raphael already has 2 touchdowns already from Caver. So we're just going to kind of just see how this kind of plays out here. So,
you know, a good sign for the Comets, you know, they fell behind. Didn't take advantage early when they had a pick, and they just keep coming. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. So, you know, that's a really good sign for the Solon Comets. Eventually, your defense makes a play. The offense has found a way to make it come back.
It is a good sign for Jim McQuaid. I'm sure he likes the toughness and the comeback ability of his team, but he's probably saying on the sidelines, hey, guys, maybe try and get up in one of these games so that we don't get behind 27-0 against Euclid. We don't get behind against teams like Menor. It makes it even more difficult for us. Maybe once, let's see if we can play with a lead from ahead and see what that does for us.
Yeah, there is that.
Can't get greedy,
yeah,
of course.
There's that.
But
you know, your concern is always if the snowball starts rolling with Menor's offense. That's one of those things where, okay, they've got the short passing game going. Now when you come up to take that away, they're going to go deep, and they have the ability to score in bunches in a hurry.
Well, considering, you know, and it looks like they're getting ready to get close here to halftime here with this 3-point lead, you know, that's a good sign considering one of the keys we were talking about earlier was that if they can try to avoid this Cardinals onslaught. So, you know, one, it's a good sign, you know, be able to hang in tight in there. And, man, the defense is a really good sign right now on how they're playing on the Comets side. So,
and if we switch gears a little bit, we talk about the St. Ignatius Wildcats. You're down 10.
Yep. That's
a concern. But you have done really well in the third quarter, and you've made really good adjustments pretty consistently when you've needed to. There have been games where you've dominated the whole game, but there have been games where you've been behind, you've made adjustments at halftime. So the third quarter is going to be critical, obviously, for St. Ignatius. If they can come out and that offensive line decides it's time for us to start asserting themselves, that's usually a good sign for the Wildcats.
The other thing for St. Ignatius, you could be looking at it saying we should be down 17 right now, or maybe even 13. Who knows what it could be? But for our defense to come up with that interception right at the goal line,
that's huge.
That's huge going into halftime, because that buys you time. You talk about weathering the storm. That buys you time. You get into the locker room and say, okay, let's regroup. Let's make those adjustments. Where if you're down 17 and then you have to make those adjustments, who knows? Maybe that's a little bit too much to overcome.
Well, it's a different conversation with your team.
Absolutely.
And you know, the one thing you know is there isn't a whole lot of shouting and there isn't a whole lot of panicking. There isn't much that goes on that Chuck Kyle and Nick Restifo, the offensive coordinator, have not seen. So Wildcats going to try to make some adjustments. One of our adjustments, we're going to go to the phone, check in with Ryan Isley. He is at the Barberton-Talmadge game. Ryan, what's going on with the Magic and Talmadge?
Hey, guys, we've finally hit halftime down here at Talmadge with the Barberton Magic leading the Talmadge Blue Devils 13-3. Talmadge's touchdowns have come on a Jeff Parker run and a Garrett Turnbow touchdown pass. And the defense for Barberton, as they usually are, have been very stingy. Talmadge took the first possession down to the 9-yard line. Barberton buckled up, held them to a field goal, and Talmadge really hasn't come close to scoring ever since.
What about the offense? How has it been more of a run-dominated or a pass-dominated for Barberton? Is it Parker and Key Thompson, or is it more Zane Reese, or is it pretty effective blend?
Okay, it's actually been about 50-50 so far, run-pass. They've run a lot of Jeff Parker. Zane Reese hasn't run the ball much at all, and Key Thompson, instead of running the football, has been running that little pattern down into about where the linebackers would be and grabbing catches there, and then that just has opened it up. Garrett Turnbow's had a couple of big plays. One was called back on an offensive pass interference. It was a beautiful throw by Reese that kind of opened up the defense. And, again, they did hit him for a touchdown earlier in the game. The offense for Barberton they've moved the ball. They haven't really been able to take advantage of a few things. But it's also been kind of a sloppy game as well. From an officiating standpoint, there have been some calls that have changed some drives so far in this game. And will actually be interesting to see coming out of halftime, because as they were going to the locker room, an official threw an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Barberton after the half had already ended and the players were going to the locker room. So it'll be interesting to see in the second half how that shakes out and how that affects play.
Ryan, running back Ty Shannon for Talmadge had 205 total yards last week against Copley. What has Barberton done against him tonight?
He's actually had a couple of big runs. He fumbled at the end of one of them, though, and that gave Barberton the football back. They've bottled him up. They've gotten into the backfield and not letting him get outside. But he has had a couple of big runs tonight. Matter of fact, on this last drive before the half, he busted a big run on 4th down and picked up a first down. But, again, they're not able to get close enough to make a difference and try to score other than that field goal they had early on. The Ty Shannon's had a couple of runs, but, again, for the most part, it's that Barberton front four holding their own at the front, and then the linebackers just getting to the ball together and flying around knowing where the football is.
Hey, Ryan, what about Zane Reese? We had mentioned a little bit earlier, came into the game with 20 touchdown passes, no picks. What has he done? How has he impressed you?
He's managed the game, and I hate to say that because I know it's a bad stigma on quarterbacks when you call him a game manager, but he has done that tonight. He's been able to read the defense, figure out if it should be a run or a pass. He's checked out of a couple plays at the line of scrimmage, and when he's needed to, he's made the plays. And the thing that I love about Zane Reese is if you watch him enough, he's mobile enough to get out on the edge to give him that run-pass option himself. So he can either go off the edge and run the football, or if the linebackers come up and try to stop him, he's got a quick pass to either Garrett Turnbow or to Thompson. So he's got plenty of options once he gets out of that pocket, and he's so good at getting outside of the pocket at the right time and not hurrying to get out of that pocket, whereas most quarterbacks, at this level, they see a little bit of pressure, and the first option is let me run. Reese usually is able to survey the field and then runs outside the pocket to figure out what's going to be the best option for him.
Yeah, Ryan, 3-year starter, so decision-making obviously one of the strengths, and that's pretty impressive. 21 touchdowns and no picks, and you're in week 8. That's great That's playoff type quarterback play from the Barberton Magic quarterback. So we appreciate the update. We'll continue to check in with Ryan Isley at that Barberton and Talmadge game. Another game that we're keeping an eye on. This one started a half hour earlier, so they're in the third quarter already, as LaSalle traveling to Akron to take on St. Vincent St. Mary, and LaSalle leading 10-0. Initial drive of the third quarter, St. Vincent St. Mary punted it deep, and LaSalle with the football deep in their own territory, and they tried the little pitch, and great penetration and a safety as making the tackle in the end zone for, and they do say it is a safety. So a good job of getting there by Emil Jackson, the linebacker. So 10-2. If only they could get a little bit better hitting with runners on scoring runners in scoring position, the Fighting Irish would be doing better. But now in reality, it's a one-possession game. You get into the end zone if you're the Fighting Irish, and obviously you're going to go for 2 and potentially try to tie it up. They did miss the field goal earlier, so that the thing is against good teams again, missed opportunities are magnified. You're always looking back going, man, we had the ball at the 6-yard line and we missed a field goal.
It's kind of been the same story, too, for St. Vincent St. Mary when they play the step-up in competition, when they play against these great teams. Against Hoban, 1 touchdown, they lose 21-7. Last week against Barberton, 2 touchdowns, they lose 35-14. So that offense for St. Vincent St. Mary been able to score points, just not against those great defensive teams. And I think that's probably the next step. And I think it also goes to show that's what happens when you have inexperience, especially at the quarterback spot.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just young.
Yeah.
And Luke Lindsay, their quarterback, is a sophomore who played a lot as a freshman. Terrence Keys, their main running back, is a sophomore who played some as a freshman. So, it's a growth process, especially with the caliber of teams that they're playing. So they'll figure it out, and they'll figure it out pretty quickly. But there's some growing pains going on. Another game we're keeping an eye on, Midview and Olmstead Falls. Dan Gillis is covering that game for us. He joins us on the phone. Dan, what's going on with the Middies and the Bulldogs?
How's it going? Well, so far it's been all Olmstead Falls in the first half. They scored touchdowns on their first 4 possessions of the game to take a 27-13 lead, and 4 different players that scored touchdowns for Olmstead Falls so far.
Is it predominantly the running attack for the Bulldogs? Are they mixing it up?
It's primarily a running attack, although the only pass they threw went for a 78-yard touchdown. That was on a play-action pass. But they've had 7 different ball carriers carry the football, and 3 of them have scored touchdowns. Luke Lombardo, Josh Jakin had a 56-yard touchdown run, and Jack Spellis, they had a 20-yard touchdown run.
Well, if you're going to throw, you might as well make it count with 78 yards and a touchdown. What has Midview's offense been able to do anything? I know they have the 13 points. Has it been turnovers, or is it just kind of getting shut down and not able to put drives together for the Middies?
They had an early interception thrown by Seamus Higley. Galaska picked it off, and that led to a touchdown for Falls. And since then, Higley has only completed 3 passes, and actually had like a 8 pass incompletion streak going for him. Connor Wolf is 94 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. He's been the bright spot for them. Other than that, they really haven't gotten much going. Higley really needs to start connecting on some of his passes, and maybe they can get something going in the second half.
Dan, this is Nate in the studio. I'm just really curious about this Olmstead Falls. I mean, I know you talked about how it seems like they're imposing their will here on Midview, but just, are they just pushing around Midview? I mean, what's going on?
They're pretty much they're doing a great job in coverage. They're getting some pressure on the quarterback. Like I said, other than Wolf, I mean, he had a 51-yard touchdown run early on. But that's pretty much been it. They've really held them in check. They've dominated the line of scrimmage. Olmstead Falls has a lot of size up front on both sides of the football, and they're pretty much opposing their will at the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that's pretty much been the key to their defense.
Dan Gillis, we appreciate the update. We will check Back in with Dan for more on that Olmstead Falls and Midview game. So, you know, here's the thing. The formula is if you can run the football and play defense, usually all that spread stuff doesn't work nearly as well.
Anything you say there, Nate? I'm not worried about Midview.
No. I mean, Olmstead Falls. I mean, they do have the horses to be able to run the football, so I'll give them that. But it's just when you look at how many points that Midview has allowed, you know, that's what you lean to in this. But obviously, they're proving right now that look, you know, if Olmstead Falls can try to make some timely scores, they'll do that. But, you know, hey, you know, credit to you. There you go.
you know what? Ever heard the phrase, style makes the fight? That's it. I mean, this is the kind of team that has given Midview problems. And it's something that when you're not used to playing against that team and you're a different kind of style, you don't like playing against that guy. And Olmstead Falls did it to him last year in the postseason, and this is an offense that has been averaging about 50 since their loss.
I have to give credit to Akron East head coach Marcus Hayes for this one. When they run the ball effectively, and were doing it in the playoffs last year, he started calling it bully ball.
Yeah.
And I love the term. And if you're, can't you see an offensive line really getting excited about, you know, a coach saying, let's go, guys, let's go play bully ball. You know that's what they're saying.
Yeah, and the other team hates it. They're like, oh, my gosh, they're pounding it down our throat over and over and over again. 4 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. It is so frustrating, especially for Midview when that offense that the team has been built on, that's sitting there on the sidelines just waiting, saying, can we please get the ball? Can we please get the ball? And then you get anxious, and then you start making mistakes because you're not going to get as many possessions throughout the course of the game as you're used to.
Well, the Moeller and Solon game has gone to halftime. Let's check in with Jeff Sabo, who is at the game and joins us now. Jeff, what's going on with the Comets and the Cardinals?
Jeff? Such a good first half, he's speechless.
Wow. So, Jeff Sabo covering the Moeller and Solon game as it has gone to half. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Had a rushing touchdown. That helped get Moeller on the board, and 2 field goals by Connor McIntosh, you know, helped give Moeller 20 points up on that scoreboard. But the Solon Comets team, they've been able to stay in this one due to their defense. They have picked off Catarunas 3 times, and they've been able to score 14 points off those interceptions. As the Comets go into Trevon Raphael on offense twice, as JT Caver has hit him for 2 scores, and that is how the Comets have 14 points.
Hey, Jeff, they scored the touchdown with, or the field goal, rather. Moeller scored a field goal with about 2 seconds left in half. How did Solon react to that? Were they happy they kept them to 3? Were they disappointed they got 3 on the board? What was kind of the emotional flow of that?
You could tell that this Comets team very calm even after the field goal by McIntosh with 1 second left to go in the quarter. Is this Comets team, they've definitely been very resilient despite getting off to a couple of slow starts on offense. They've really been handling the pressure well. They've really been able to play relaxed. They tried to do some hurry-up offense at certain times that ended up in 3 and out. But overall, this Comets team, they are playing relaxed. They are definitely determined. And going into this one, they were excited just to even have home field advantage.
Jeff, you know this team better than anybody else not named Jim McQuaid, probably. So if you look at that loss that they sustained against Stowe earlier in the season, since that point, the Solon offense is averaging 29 points per game. What has been at the center of that change?
Well, I think first off, it's JT Caver in at quarterback. He can definitely run the football. They haven't had him run as much tonight as he did go down very briefly with an ankle injury. He has returned, so he's mainly been a pocket passer, but I think utilizing a lot of the different offensive weapons that they have, whereas Trevon Raphael, he's definitely been a key receiver for this Comets team. And then Thomas Wilkes, sometimes it takes him a quarter or two to really get things revved up, but once he gets going, he really starts following his blockers. He can really turn on the engine and really move the ball down the field for the Comets. Now, to answer your question, in other games, they've really the Comets were able to change things up since week 2 against this Stowe Bulldogs team. There are some games where they were handing it off to Andrew Mason, other games where they were getting Sam Bubonics, another wide receiver, involved. I think it's really just being able to get different looks to the offense throughout the season and really just being very resilient. And I think that's really helped that Solon offense propel since that week 2 matchup, or that week 3 matchup against Stowe.
All right, Jeff Sabo, we appreciate the update. We will check back in with Jeff as that game at halftime now with men are up 6. So if you're Solon, it's a one-score game. You get in the end zone, you get an extra point, and you have the lead. So that's the good news if you are the Solon Comets.
And if you're Solon,
they get the football to start the second half as well.
That helps too.
Yeah.
And if you're the Comets, you're like, hey, we're down 27-0 against Euclid. This is nothing for us. This is only 6 this time. And I think that offense coming to life for Solon gives them a lot of confidence, even though they're down 6. Maybe earlier in the season, if they were down by 6, it would have been a different kind of feeling. But with the way that this offense is playing and with the way that JT Caver is playing and the dual threat capability, I think it's just a different mentality going into games for the Comets.
Well, we saw St. Vincent St. Mary got on the scoreboard with a safety. The offense back at it, driving as they're inside. They're approaching the red zone. Luke Lindsay, and McNally reads it, and he is gone. A swing pass picked off and returned for the touchdown for the Lancers as McNally just read that and took it all the way. Shane McNally, and now it's 17-2. And
so if you're just sitting on your couch and you know nothing about football, and they just pause the play like right as it's unfolding, and they say, "Hey Bill, tell me what's going to happen on this play." I guarantee my man Bill would have been like, the dude in white is going to jump in front of this pass and take it. It was press coverage, basically. Cornerback read that thing like a book, and the quarterback didn't even look anywhere else. Like, that was, you could see that thing unfolding.
It was like a car wreck if you're a St. Vincent St. Mary fan.
Man,
you saw it coming.
That is rough.
You wanted to cover your eyes, and unfortunately, Shane McNally said, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
We like that. Let's head back to the phones. Bryant Kaiser joins us as that Perry and Orange game, I'm sure, is getting even crazier. Bryant, what's going on?
It might be the first one to 60. And with halftime is 34-28. Perry.
So Perry has come back. It might be the first to 70 at the way you're going. 34-28 at half. How has Brewster done? Colston Brewster,
Well, Brewster threw 3 touchdowns, but he threw a pick 6. One of those Lawrence Taylor passes. You know how Lawrence Taylor caught that pass and went down the sideline? Yeah, the other guy was like 70 yards. And that guy, Beachwood back on top, but Perry came right back. Well, they got a rookie running back, a freshman, Jalen Anderson. I mean, he's the real deal, man. He's 6 feet, 190 pounds. He got some quickness. He's got some elusiveness. He scored on the 5-yard touchdown run. And Orange, they fumbled the ball, and it gave Perry new life, and they scored right then. And Jacob Allen with a second touchdown pass reception. This was 37 yards. And now Perry leads at the half, 34-28, but that's not the end of the score. We got more scoring to go.
Way to go out on a limb there, Bryant.
It's a beautiful day for football. Can't you believe this? The 8th week of October, and everybody's still in T-shirts.
Hey, Brian, this is Nate in the studio. I'm curious, would you kind of take me back to when Perry was driving, and, you don't hear a lot about Colston Brewster being able to turn over the football and through that interception. Would you kind of just walk me through what exactly happened there for Orange to be able to cut the game there?
One of those sideline passes, those quick outs, and once the quarterback touches the ball, you're like, uh-oh. Only guy in the bag could tackle him. I mean, he went 70 yards. I mean, that's his second interception of the season. He came in throwing 20 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. So he threw one interception. It was a bad one, but Perry rebounded, because Orange turned the ball over themselves 3 times. They had 2 turnovers, 2 fumbles, and an interception. So it could be, Orange could have even more points to the board. So we could have been talking 50, 40 something at the halftime.
Brian Kaiser, I'm sure we will be checking back in with you as a lot of scoring going on between Perry and Orange. Another game we are keeping our eye on, Benedictine taking on Padua, the Bengals and the Bruins. And Benedictine with the football. And they give it to Matthias Chemlewski. Oh, over one defender, bounces it outside. Look at that. It's a nice touchdown run. That'll tie the game up at 10-all. The 22-yard touchdown run by Chemlewski. Third quarter in that one, and they are tied up at 10.
Benedictine likes close games. We were talking. We talked about. I think it was about a week or 2 ago. We were talking about the NDCL game and how that came down to a field goal there. But Benedictine's not shy of having a close game with you and trying to keep it. So, one thing that Padua's been able to do is been able to stretch out scores against opponents in their last 7 games here, minus the Hoban game. If you give the Bengals an opportunity to be able to cut a game, this is what they're going to do. And so far, right now, we're looking at a tie game here. So,
well, last year Benedictine played a bunch of close games and lost them.
Yep.
By 7 or less. I believe it was 6 of them. They lost by 7 points or less. This year, they're winning them by and large. They did have the loss where they didn't play as well as they wanted to against Lake Catholic after one of those wins. But they're starting to win close games. They're used to being in close games. That's a good thing for the Bengals.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good thing for Benedictine to be at 10 points already, because if you look at last week's game, the loss against Lake Catholic, they score 7 points nice and early, and then they get shut out the rest of the way. So after their offense was completely shut down by Lake Catholic through 3 quarters, to have 10 against Padua, a team that right now controls its own destiny for the playoff picture, Benedictine needs that offense to continue to get going, especially when you look at the final couple of games of this schedule, with Benedictine being on the bubble here when it comes to the playoffs in D2 Region 5.
And last week we touched on a little bit, a lot of turnovers against Lake Catholic. I believe it was 5.
Yep.
And that, not many teams can overcome that, and they certainly could not.
Yeah, and Benedictine right now, they're in a good position right now. We were talking about the playoff situation right now. If the playoffs were to start tonight, they wouldn't host a home game, but hopefully for them, with this win, that could help them project them, especially in a region where you're facing last year's Division III state champion, the Archbishop Hoban Knights, and a few other teams that are some powerhouses as well.
This is a big one, too, from Padua's perspective, because last year, you remember, they got off to that 4-2 start. Then they lost 3 of their last 4, and they missed the playoffs. Now, this was a 1-win team in 2015, so they're building, and they're trying to get back into the playoffs for the first time since 2010. If they don't get it done tonight against Benedictine, then their playoff hopes rely on a win against Lake Catholic or a win against NDCL. So it doesn't get easier for Padua at the very end of the season. They want to continue to be in control of their own destiny, and the way that they do that is beating Benedictine. If they lose to Benedictine tonight, suddenly now it becomes a lot more difficult to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and third quarter tie game. Both these teams are used to playing close games. So minimize turnovers, play defense, and put your offense in a position to win it.
It was a close game between the 2 teams last year, too,
yep.
21-14. So about what you would expect from a head coach and Mike Polovasic, who knows Benedictine really well because he was the defensive coach at Benedictine. So he knows how to beat the Bengals, and the Bengals know all about him. So this is what you kind of expect when you talk about these interleague games.
Yeah.
Well, another game that we are tracking is the Chardon and Brush game. Matt Gould is at that game and has this halftime update. Take it away, Matt.
It's halftime here at Corb Field on the campus of Brush High School in Lyndhurst. I'm Matt Gould for cleveland.com and Friday Night Huddle, where the Brush Arcs have a 7-0 lead, courtesy of Mitchell Kellogg III's 34-yard touchdown run that you probably saw earlier here in the second quarter. And that's a big one because the Arcs are up 7-0. They come in this one with a 5-2 record, 3-1 in the Western Reserve Conference. So a win could pull them even. It would pull them even with the Chardon Hilltoppers, who are 6-1 but 4-0 in the WRC. Of course, Brush a week ago came off with an upset loss on the road So this is a big bounce-back game for the Arcs if they can pull out this game against a Division II, now Division III playoff team from a year ago. Of course, you probably also saw Chase Klein. He has been a load in the backfield. Chardon did control the tempo early. You might have seen a block field goal of Brush. Really set the tone. Chardon has been controlling the ball, but Brush got a couple of big plays, and that's been the difference here at the half. Keep tuned for the second half. I'm Matt Wolf for cleveland.com and Friday Night Huddle.
All right, Matt, we appreciate the update, 7-0. You know, if you're Brush, the good thing is your defense has come up with big enough plays to keep them off the scoreboard. And when you have Godwin Joe playing quarterback and that weaponry, if you get a little bit of defense, he usually will provide enough offense for it to come out the way you want it to.
Dave, you were talking earlier about the Arcs defense, and, you know, I was a bit concerned about that as well because they've been allowing quite a bit of points coming through the first 7 weeks here. So to see that, you know, they're holding the Hilltoppers to 0 at the half, great job on their part. Also, as far as on the Chardon side of it, glad to hear Chase Klein is back, who committed to Michigan State, actually. Yep. So he was one of those few guys that were out last week, and so it's good to see that, you know, they're getting a little bit healthier here in week 8. But no, definitely the Arcs, very surprised just by their defense and just coming in and what they're doing right now.
Well, you know, had a chance to talk to Jeff Fink a couple weeks ago, and he feels they're a playoff team. Talks about it with his team, we're a playoff team. Our defense needs to come out and play. If they play like they are capable of, he feels they can not only make the playoffs but win a game or two in the playoffs. And once you get into that level, who knows? But it's good to see if you're a Brush Arc fan. Brush's defense has come to play. They lead 7-0 at half. So we are approaching third quarter of most of the games here in Week 8. We're going to step aside and take a quick timeout here on Friday Night Huddle. Along with Chris Fedor and Nate Klein from cleveland.com, I'm Dave Bacon. You're watching Friday Night Huddle here on cleveland.com.
This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Merrill!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are two outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contebelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your Access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
School sports, Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post Match. Only on Spectrum Sports. Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Ho, Week 8 of high school football all across the Buckeye State. One of the games we're checking in on is Benedictine and Padua, game tied at 10, and Padua driving with the football, trying to take the lead. Handoff and a nice tough run inside, getting down to the 2-yard line for the Bruins is Krishawn Long, a junior running back. Pretty good run, as it's going to be. You see, they're already in the fourth quarter, a very fast-paced game. As big playoff implications in this one. Both of them currently in the playoff. Picture would be in the playoffs if they ended today, if the regular season did. And here we go. A run straight into the end zone. That was kind of easy. Is getting into the end zone is Trenton Kramer, and that will give the Padua Bruins the lead. 16-10, point after coming for the Bruins. So that's huge. You take the lead, point after coming. You want to play from ahead in the fourth quarter. Don't want to be playing from behind.
And I like it by Padua. Don't get cute when you get that close to the goal line. You've got the league leader in rushing. So just keep giving him the ball. He's the guy that you have relied on to this point to get you to 6-1 on the season. He's already over 1,000 yards rushing. Continue to rely on those guys that got you there, especially that close to the goal line.
Yeah, and this game kind of gets that sense of, who's going to make that play in the in the last few minutes there. So Benedictine, they're not shy of being in these types of contests with each other. So I'm careful, keeping an eye on this game here. But yeah, 16 or 17 almost here, 17-10. So
yep, up 7. Well, another game that we are tracking. You heard Matt Gould with the update was 7-0 as Chardon with the ball, trying to get things even against the Brush Sharks, and the Hilltoppers driving. Their quarterback, Andrew Kobieski, lowers his shoulder and dives into the end zone. Ball game tied up at 7. So Kobieski, dangerous weapon, big kid running the football. and 7-7 third quarter.
He was one of those players that was missing in action last week. So good sign for the Hilltoppers to have them all guys healthy, ready for week 8. But this is a tight contest. I mean, Western Reserve Conference titles on the line, and also playoff implications as well. So,
we had talked a little bit about Solon Comets, and they have the football, and they got the football to start the third quarter, down 6. They're moving the football. So obviously, if you're Solon, get points on the board.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to rely on that defense. There's no question about it, because Menor isn't done scoring, so you better not be done scoring.
Yeah, we were smiling at each other looking in between breaks. One of the things that's keeping Solon in this game is those 3 turnovers that they've been able to put together. So, so long as their defense can hold it together there, offense has a shot. You can close this game and even possibly win it out. So
it seems like for Solon offensively, it's been the big plays. It's trying to get the ball to
turnover. You turn it over.
Yeah, turn it over and then go for the big play, go for the kill shot. Absolutely, and that's the smart thing to do. But for them, when they've had to sustain drives and go 13 plays, 14 plays, they haven't been able to do it. They got 3 first downs in the first half. So at some point, that offense needs to get some sustained drives to allow that defense to get some wind here in the second half. Because if they got to continue to go on the field over and over and over again in the second half against Menor, eventually that defense is going to wear down. I don't care how good it is.
And don't think the Cardinals didn't watch that game film from last week against Solon. I mean, they can cut a score if they need to. So, obviously the 3 turnovers helps, but we're going to see what happens here.
St. Ignatius, Moeller, as that game, Moeller up 10, third quarter, and the Crusaders driving the football, trying to expand their lead on St. Ignatius. As we take a look in, and Moeller is inside the 10-yard line, trying to build on a 10-point lead. First and goal from the 7-yard line for the Moeller Crusaders. And you get a good look at it. The quarterback.
Goal from the 7. Wildcat formation.
They go Wildcat, and it's Brian White, and it'll be second down and goal from the 5 as Brian White. And we saw turnover in the end zone just before halftime, so a little bit of a different look. You put an extra running back there, and you try to run the football, and you get big, and you see the line. They've got a formidable offensive line, as Moeller usually does. Really good tight end as well in Brendan Bates. That would be number 80, standing about the 10-yard line. So kind of interesting. They're going 2 tight ends, and now they split one of them out. Caden Clark from Danny Clark's younger brother from Hoban is one of their tight ends. There's the direct snap again, and nothing doing. A nice job of chasing that down from the backside as Darian Kennard, one of the big offensive linemen there as well. Logan Joyce is the linebacker who chased that down from the backside. So it'll be third and goal from the 5 now. As here comes the. If it gets to 4th down from this point, do you kick a field goal?
Right. I mean,
you're at the 5. In theory, it makes it a 13-point.
Right, but it's already a 2-possession game, and you're this close against St. Ignatius. How many more times are you going to get that close against the Wildcats?
Now, the thing that will factor into that is St. Ignatius has a kicker who has made a 55-yard field goal and a 59-yard field goal already. You would push it so that you would need 2 touchdowns. You'd push it to a 13-point lead.
I don't know. It's going to be a gutsy call if they have to be forced to go on 4th down and try to figure out what they're going to do. So best thing they can do is just try to score here on the 3rd down if you're Moeller. But, man, this is definitely this way it's playing out right now. This could definitely be a big upset, Division I here.
This is why it's so tough to be a coach, because you've only given up 13 points to this point against St. Ignatius. So if you believe in your defense, if you want to continue to rely on that defense, I completely understand that. I mean, St. Ignatius, the fewest amount of points that they've scored all season long is 17. That was week 1 against Hoban. Since then, it's been at least 30 in every single game. It's only the 3rd quarter, so there's still another quarter to be played, but to hold St. Ignatius down to 13 to this point, it tells you that your defense is playing pretty well, and I think it allows you to get a little bit more risky.
And then also, how much faith do you have in this quarterback that you've had to bring in too as well for Moeller with Mitch McKenzie? So obviously, we got a chance to saw what he did close to the red zone there, throwing that interception earlier. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like whatever they got to do in this third down, they've got to be able to score. But Ignatius, I mean, they can cut it. They can cut the game if they need to. So.
Well, Lakewood is taking on Westlake. Two of our student reporters, Garrett and Thomas, give us this update. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to the halftime report. It is I, Garrett the Man Eater Hark.
And Thomas the Great Hansen.
And we're here at Westlake, where Westlake is taking on Lakewood in week 7. Both teams 0-6, but first half has not gone well.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Lakewood Rangers have 21 and your demons only 10. Probably due to multiple fumbles on both sides and missed snaps.
Both teams were doing well to begin out with. The demons actually taking the lead for a short while, 10-7, but then a minute later followed up by a touchdown by a great run route by Lakewood, and they just scored another one just before the half, and it's not really been going our way. But I think in the second half, if our defense improves enough, we can stop Lakewood from scoring points. Our offense is doing well. It's just that defense needs to be out there.
Joe and I were talking about that on announcing, how our offenses are pretty good. It's that both teams, the defense needs some work, and it looks like ours needs a little more work than theirs.
I agree with you on that one, Thomas. This has been Halftime Report.
All right, we appreciate the update as Westlake down 21-10 at the half. And
I like that T-shirt. Home with the state of Ohio as the O. I got to find out where my man got that.
There you go. You know, the going back to the St. Ignatius Moeller game, it'll be interesting to see the decision that Moeller comes up with there. As they were looking at a short field goal, and my guess is you kick that when you factor in how well your defense has played, and that's you want to try to make it so that a field goal, a longer field goal, can't give you the lead.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, and I feel pretty optimistic right now about Moeller's defense. I mean, they've kind of proven it already here in this first half against the Wildcats. So, you know, they want to go ahead and take that chance. If they got to hit a field goal in the fourth down, you know, so be it. But right now, it looks like the defense. Yeah, I'm really feeling pretty optimistic about them right now.
Well, one of the games we've been tracking is the Solon Menor game, and Solon answers in the third quarter with their first possession, driving the football downfield. Thomas Wilkes through the hole, and Thomas Wilkes into the end zone to give Solon the 21-20 lead.
That's the kind of big play that Solon has been leaning on all night long. It's usually Menor with the big play offense, right? The athletes all over the place, and they can score quickly and they can score in bunches. And for Solon to have those big explosive plays, I think obviously it takes a lot of pressure off of JT Caver. And at this point now, you turn things over to your defense, and this is the kind of game that Solon wants to be in. Okay, we're up. We've got our defense playing well. Now we can lean on them.
And the defense, and the Solon defense, again, has to feel pretty confident coming up with 3 turnovers against the Cardinals. So they're in good shape. Thomas Wilkes, somebody we haven't heard about in a couple of weeks,
right.
So I'm sure he feels pretty good about getting into the end zone tonight. But now the Cardinals have an opportunity to answer. So,
yeah. Again, you know that Menor offense they're going to get things rolling. So the question is, can you come up with a stop? Can you come up with a turnover? And that offense, they're playing well. They better keep coming up with big plays because they're going to need them. They're nowhere near done scoring yet.
I think for Thomas Wilkes, I mean, it's great for him. I think it opens things up for him to have a guy like Raphael making some plays on the outside. And that's the thing that Wilkes, we didn't know about coming into the year. Is there going to be anybody else on that offense that's going to be able to take pressure off of him so that teams can't load up to slow him down? When you've got playmakers on the outside and you've got somebody with 2 touchdowns in the first half, suddenly maybe the defense has to start looking a different direction and saying, okay, that safety that we're going to bring up, maybe we have to push him over towards Raphael because he's been burning our corners. So I think that's a product of the playmakers on the outside helping Wilkes get to the corner there.
Well, the other thing is you're going to have to account for Caver potentially running
exactly
as well.
Right.
They like running the zone read, so pick your poison. And that's an effective offense. That is an offensive you can plan with.
Yep.
And that was one surprise when Jeff was talking to us about the whole ankle situation with JT. I'm just wondering, how's he doing right now? Will he be able to try to do some running for the Comets?
Right.
But, even though, if he still has to pass it off to Thomas Wilkes, he's very capable of doing that. But, again, Solon has won the conference the last 2 years. So I'm sure that they got to say, look, hey, how did we get to that point last year, and how can we repeat that again this year? So.
Let's check back in as Moeller and St. Ignatius doing battle, and the Wildcats trying to cut in to that Moeller lead. They did take the field goal.
And the Wildcats is Kyle Hall. He's going to
Hall
throw downfield for
throws
Nigel
it. Oh,
Drummond,
what a catch. A nice grab by Nigel Drummond for the touchdown. So a nice pass to Nigel Drummond. And that will make it a 26-20 deficit. A nice pass, a nice catch. 26-20 now the score.
Well, for a minute there, I thought he was going to just trip up at the 1 yard line. I looked, I was like, wait, whoa, what are you doing? Yeah. But, you know, I mean, you know, great sign for the offense, obviously. And we even talked about how Coach Kyle was going to have to go back in the second half. They do make some great adjustments at halftime, trying to figure out what they need to do to be able to cut this deficit. So, you know, great job with the reception there, and still some more time to play in the game.
Man, one, if you're Moeller, 2 opportunities inside the 5-yard line, and to come away with just 3 points in those 2 opportunities, boy, is that a gut punch, especially when your playoff lives are on the line against St. Ignatius. You just can't waste those opportunities against that caliber team. If you're St. Ignatius, you're sending a basket of muffins to that entire defense for being able to do that, giving the offense enough time to try and get something going, one big play, and suddenly they're back in the game, all because the defense came up with 2 big boy plays in the red zone.
Are they blueberry or chocolate or chocolate chip muffins?
Yeah, at this point, you're not going to be picky. Might be banana nut. Who knows?
But yeah, you know, the defense has been coming up with plays for St. Ignatius, and you know the great news if you're St. Ignatius, boy, we just hit the big pass play. The bad news is they're still down 6.
Yeah,
you know, and you know Moeller puts another one on the board, and it's all of a sudden it's a 2-score game again. So. Again, it's good that it's a 1-score game, but you know they're by no means out of the woods just yet.
Right.
But they're getting there.
And these two teams are very familiar with each other as well. So I'm sure they've had plenty of tape, plenty of experience to rely on in this game coming in. But let's make a mental note: this 26-13 lead that they had, because this could make all the difference in the world how that changed and what they decided to do when they didn't score in the red zone there.
Let's check back in with this game as St. Ignatius's defense. Coming up with the play, and ball is loose, and the Wildcats recover, and they recover at the 30.
Moeller didn't need that.
Coming up with the recovery is St. Ignatius's Daniel Skelza. Daniel Skelza with the recovery, the safety, came up with the recovery.
The Wildcats just showed in that play that they didn't get to these top rankings because of their offense or because of their defense, but you know, just making these special plays when they needed to at the time that they needed to. So, you know, the Wildcats are going to have another opportunity to kind of maybe even tie this game, even take the lead. But you know, great sign there for their defense again.
Well, this
muffins, right?
2 muffins. 2 baskets.
I was just saying.
Are they big or?
I was just saying. At some point, these opportunities, these missed opportunities, you got to reward them.
I just got to give you credit. Let's head back to the phones. Ryan Isley joins us. He's going to update us on the Barberton-Talmadge game. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey guys, you asked me at halftime what the Talmadge defense had done to kind of bottle up Jeff Parker. I'd like to change my answer. The answer is nothing. Jeff Parker has run wild in this second half. He already has 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, pushing the Barberton lead to 27-3 now with just over 3 minutes left to play. And Barberton has the ball first down at its own 35 and starting another drive here in the third quarter. They score here, and we will be looking at a running clock here in Talmadge.
So just like that, you know, the Barberton offense gets things rolling. We did see one of those Jeff Parker touchdown runs. Has the defense really asserted themselves as well? Is that has it been turnovers or what has gotten the ball back so quickly for the Magic?
It hasn't been turnovers. It's just been a really good, solid defense. I feel like as soon as Barberton got that lead early and then they stretched it to 13-3, they smelled the blood in the water, to be honest. And then once they went up, they got that first touchdown here in the third quarter. You could see the intensity rise, and you had a feeling that Talmadge was not going to move the football. They didn't, They punt the ball back to Barberton, and then Parker busts one down the left side for 58 yards, and you could almost hear the air come out of this crowd here in Talmadge, which has been, they've been raucous all night. They've been so loud, they've been boisterous even with their team losing. But if that second touchdown in the third quarter by Jeff Parker just kind of took the wind out of their sails for a while.
Ryan, how impressed have you been with Barberton? That's a team that's unbeaten, probably feels like they're not getting as much love as some of the other 7-0 teams. How impressed have you been with the Magic?
This is the second time I've had them in 3 weeks, and they are extremely impressive. And to be honest, I would like to see their speed on turf, because they have speed, but the 2 games I've seen have been on natural grass, which is obviously a slower surface. I can't imagine how much faster this team could be on turf. But they're an impressive football team, offensively and defensively. Their defense just sets the table for the offense to come up and take over. Like I said, they didn't score in that first quarter, but the defense was holding Talmadge long enough to let the offense get into the football game. And once they got in the flow, you could just tell it was a completely different football game from the Barberton side.
All right, Ryan Isley, we appreciate the update. We will check back in with Ryan as the Barberton Magic. You know, it's kind of been, first there was Aurora, that was a statement game, they won big. Then there was St. Vincent St. Mary, that was a statement game for them. Now Talmadge with 1 loss. They're probably getting a little tired of making statements here in the middle of this season.
Disrespected.
They feel disrespected. Are you going to do something about that in the rankings, Nate?
I haven't been disrespecting them. I might be, the second most popular person in Barberton next to the mayor.
Yeah, I mean, Talmadge, they haven't been to this in this atmosphere for quite some time. And so right now, them holding a number 2 spot in the region, I'm just kind of wondering, just in their mind, what was going through coming in tonight. Had a couple picks last week, did really well. They're 6-1 coming in this week. So, I'm just kind of curious how serious they have even taken this game here. But Barberton's playing like they've been disrespected, and Barberton's playing like they're on a mission, maybe even win this American Division title. So,
Dave, I think you brought it up earlier. I don't think enough people understand how good this Barberton defense is.
Yeah.
And if you just look at the numbers, you can try and point them any way you want, and maybe it's because they've played a couple of 0-7 teams, maybe it's because they've played a couple of 2-5 teams. But look, this is a team that has only given up 20 twice in 7 games, and when they've played against the 2 best teams on the schedule, arguably Aurora, 7 points. St. Vincent St. Mary, 14 points. Tonight, Talmadge. They haven't even gotten close to double digits. So this defense of Barberton, combined with an offense that averages about 34 points per game, that's the making of a playoff team, one that can make a deep run in October and November.
And that's kind of what they were gearing up for. They wanted to be physical up front. And when you play Aurora and you beat them like they do, and when you play St. Vincent St. Mary and you beat them like they have, they're playing physical up front. So they're giving Coach Gatto what he wants. So let's see exactly how Barberton can finish things out. Well, we're going to check back in. Solon is a trailing Mentor, 23-21, and we're going to check in with that game, and it is a punt return. Trayvon Raphael, and he's going down the sidelines. It is a 90-yard punt return for a touchdown by Trayvon Raphael, his 3rd touchdown of the night, and the Solon Comets. Somebody said special teams. I think it was actually Nate. So the punt return
makes up for the old stuff.
27-23. So
let's pick up on this Raphael. He's doing a heck of a job tonight. Trying to figure out where his jersey is being sold now. So, he's keeping them ahead right now. And obviously, in a game like this, you're going to need key plays from some of your playmakers and also from your special teams. So, hats off to Comets right now, but still, game's not over yet.
No, and again, Mentor's offense is going to keep scoring. So you're going to have to find a way to either come up with a turnover or score. Those are 2 options.
This is what head coach Steve Trevisano wanted, actually. And this is a position that I think Mentor needed to be in. Coach Triv thought, going back to last week's game against Shaker Heights, that it was good that his team and his starters were playing into the second half, because he felt like things were getting a little bit too easy, because his starters didn't have to play in the second half. They didn't have to play past the 3rd quarter because they were winning those games by so much. Playoffs is about adversity and overcoming adversity. And how do you handle yourself in pressure-packed moments? And if you haven't been in those moments, it's tough to know how your team is going to respond. So they got a test last week against Shaker Heights, and they liked the fact that they got tested. And now here they are against Solon on the road. This, no matter what happens tonight, prepares Menor really well for the postseason if they can get in.
And, you know, Menor obviously in a little bit better shape if they lose this game than Solon is.
Sure.
Solon really needs this one, and it'll be interesting to see. They're going to get tested. You know, the Menor's offense isn't going to stop. So your defense either has to come up with a turnover that gives you an extra possession. That's the reason for the turnover, or you just have to outscore them.
Only 8 teams can go to the playoffs in this region, and right now Solon is on the outside looking in, and they are playing like they want a spot in Week 11. So, you know, right now they're in good shape. 3 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah.
You know, unbelievable start for the defense. And they got a chance to maybe even try to extend this lead. But Menor, don't count them out just yet.
Well, we've been following St. Ignatius and Moeller. Moeller a 26-20 lead, and the Crusaders' offense trying to get things untracked. They give the ball to Colin Thurman, and Colin Thurman, oh, a bad angle. Look at him go. Colin Thurman outruns the defense 73 yards for the touchdown. Colin Thurman pushes it to a 32-20 lead. Moeller went for 2 to try to push it to 14, as you would expect. But the important thing there is they're in the fourth quarter, and it is a 2-possession lead.
Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, St. Ignatius was not allowing a lot of points coming into this game, about 16.5 a game in the first 7 weeks. They've given up 32.
Yeah,
and it's not a good sign.
Keep in mind, they did have the punt return.
Right.
And the punt block, but the punt block, they got the pick in the end zone. So
it's interesting. We keep going to these highlights, and we see things that we're not used to seeing from St. Ignatius. A bad angle right there that allowed that big run. You don't turn on games and see big runs against St. Ignatius. You don't turn on big games and see punt returns for touchdowns against St. Ignatius. You don't see blocked punts against St. Ignatius. So we're seeing some things that we're just not used to seeing from the Wildcats. And for Moeller, you have to continue to capitalize. It is the fourth quarter. You have a 12-point lead. But we saw with one big play how quick that turned the momentum, and then Moeller turned the ball over. Lucky for them, their defense came up with a stop. But this Ignatius team, with this offense, they can strike quick. They've already shown that throughout the course of the game. So you have to continue to capitalize on these opportunities.
Boy, I just wonder, like, you know, we were looking at that 3-4 record for Moeller, but they've just been beat up so much this season in the teams that they played, and now it looks like it's just paying off for them against the Wildcats right now. And they're making plays, and the Wildcats are just, their mouths are just wide open right now. Like, what is going on right now? We have not been doing this the first 7 weeks. And to your point, I can't even remember the last time I seen them so far back in their end zone when we saw a couple of those highlights. So we're going to see what happens. 12-point advantage right now, Moeller.
Well, when you set up the schedule and you have Moeller, Xavier, Eds to end it, it's with a purpose. You're going to face the best of the best, and it prepares you for what's coming in Week 11. And that's the reason they do that. And it will be interesting to see the final 11 minutes of that game to see if the Wildcats can, in fact, pull it out.
And for Moeller, it's the same kind of thing. You want to be at your best late October, early November if you get there. So that's why you put a great team from Kentucky at the front of the schedule. That's why you put St. Xavier right there in the middle of the schedule. That's why you put LaSalle there. That's why you finish with St. Ed's and Winton Woods. Because if you can get through that gauntlet going into the postseason, you feel like, hey, we can hang with anybody then.
Well, one of the games we're tracking, the Brush Arcs and the Chardon Hilltoppers, as both teams trying to strengthen their playoff chances. And 7-7 is the score in the Chardon Hilltoppers offense. Driving again, and it's Andrew Kobieski. Oh, look at that. Just gets outside. Would have scored if it was touch football on that one. Gets into the end zone, 14-7, as the Hilltoppers have scored 14 straight. And that one goes to the fourth quarter.
They were missing him last week.
Yep.
They were missing him just being able to manage the game and just be able to kind of give the Hilltoppers a disadvantage against their opponents. So, great sign here for the Chardon Hilltoppers right now.
And we've gotten to 2 plays, and it just looks like Chardon. Looks like Chardon. The quarterback keeping, faking the handoff, getting the defense going one direction, having him go the other direction. And they can be very, very difficult to play for a team like Brush. We were talking about the styles and how they make the fight. Olmstead Falls, Midview, Chardon, Brush. It's 2 polar opposites, and for Brush now, they're in a game that favors Chardon, and they needed this game for them with the questions that they have defensively. They needed 21, 28, 35, that sort of thing, and now you've got your offense there on the sidelines really, really antsy, and who knows what happens at that point. Either you make a play or sometimes you end up making a mistake because you try and do too much.
Well, the good news is you're equipped to score quickly with Godwin Joe and that receiving core. The bad news is now you're running out of time and your margin for error is shrinking with each possession. So, again, 14-7, Chardon leading Brush early fourth quarter. So it will be interesting to see if the Brush Arcs can come back and tie us and maybe even take the lead.
And Chardon is usually not known for passing the football a lot, so that's probably one of the reasons why you don't see such a large margin of score right now. But let's not forget that Chardon was undefeated last year. They won the conference title, so they know what it takes to get back to that point as well. But right now Chardon's in good shape right now, but Brush. Now the question is, the same offense that is known to put up a lot of points, can they do that tonight against the Hilltoppers?
Well, they didn't score a lot against East Lake North in the loss, and again, it's now a little bit of a slump for the Arcs. Before that, they were putting up 40-some like it was their license to do so.
Right, exactly. And the question is, how do you respond to something like that? Is that a shock to the system? Is it a loss of confidence? And then they come back into this game, and now they're being held in check once again, and you're like, oh my gosh, shades of Hoover, oh my gosh, shades of North, what do we have to do to find that offense that put up 54 against South and 52 against Kenston? Where is that offense? And you start to question yourself and say, hey, are we even capable of doing this anymore?
54 against South, 51 in the first half.
Yeah.
He scored 7 touchdowns and a field goal in the first half of a football game. So they scored on every possession.
Yeah, and one of the differences compared to those games and now in what Brush is facing, Chase Klein is right there in the middle of the football field, getting ready to head to Michigan State as well. So, it's probably going to make some, it's going to make Goodwin Joe have to make some tough calls on offense of what he's going to do with that football. So,
well, we are keeping our eye on the Solon and Mentor game, and the Cardinals trying to come back, but the Comets offense. They get the ball after the defense holds, and the Comets with it. They run the jet sweep, and there is the man, Trayvon Raphael going to score. So 2 touchdown passes, a kick return for a touchdown, and now a touchdown run. 34-23. That one late in the third quarter. And the Mentor Cardinals offense not going to go away, I guarantee it. So right now, though, Solon leading by 11.
Raphael leading by 5, if you do the math there. Have a night, young fella.
Find a way to get him the ball. He's hot.
That's the thing. I mean, credit to Solon. Exactly. Credit to Solon. Understand where the mismatch is. Understand the guy that is rolling. And just come up with creative ways to get him the ball. It doesn't matter how. And there was another creative way of getting the ball.
And Chris, you were talking about earlier just about Solon and being able to find who's going to be that receiver, for the Comets after the turnover last year with the players. But, he's showing in Week 8, look, hey, I want to lead my team, try to get a playoff spot, and I want to lead them, try to get in the playoffs. So, Raphael's doing a heck of a job right now. We talked about him having an advantage against Mentor with how many touchdowns he's having, and I'm just kind of curious where his jersey is going to be sold after the night. So,
well, you talked about creative ways to get the football to somebody. Mentor responds, and this one's pretty creative. 3rd and 10. Tadas Tatarunas, all kinds of time to throw. steps out of one, then directing traffic, throws down the field. It's deflected. Floria grabs it and gets into the end zone. How do you like that for creative?
Wow.
Bank shot off the defender into the receiver. Long touchdown to draw closer. And
oh, that's a gut punch. Oh, that's a gut punch. You play it so well. If you're Solon, you make him hold the ball long.
They make the 2-point conversion, so it's a 3-point game.
But you cover great on the play because he had to hold the ball so long. You get enough pressure from him where he's got to escape to the right and he's got to get out of a tackle. You're in position to make the play, and then you just don't. Oh, that hurts.
The Comets and the Cardinals kept some plays off film. I think that's what happened because, I mean, these are just some incredible plays right now. These are some great playmakers that are making some plays right now. And, you know, we said earlier, I mean, this is going to probably be one of those games that's going to come down to the last play. But 34-31, Comets are ahead right now, I believe at home in this game. So, yeah.
So, you know, you saw Tatarunas. He's directing traffic, landing planes, and then finding his receiver. I mean, the challenge is you can't give him that much time.
Right.
Because they've got 5 guys on the field that can run and are pretty good athletes. And you're asking a lot of your secondary to try to cover for that long. Now, it was covered pretty well.
Yeah, it was.
But you're not going to make – that is not a good way to win a football game, is to let him have that much time to direct traffic and pick and choose which receiver he has open.
And what a swing, too. It was 3rd down and 10, so you get a stop there. You flip the field. You probably get the ball maybe at the 30, maybe at the 40, and your offense goes back on the field with all that momentum, and suddenly Mentor's right back in this.
Yeah, and you know, it's late 3rd quarter, so you know, that could go on all night, as they say, because both of those offenses look to have found a little bit of a niche, a little bit of groove, and some things they can build on and work off of. So a 3-point lead for Solon, and they're going to be approaching the 4th quarter here very quickly. So still plenty of football left to be played. Again, huge game for the Solon Comets. If they find a way to win that will likely elevate them up into the top 8 in that region pretty solidly, just because of the second-level points from Mentor. Remember, Mentor's only lost 10 points to St. Ignatius early in the season, where they fell behind big and then rallied.
And Euclid's probably the biggest. That's probably going to be the biggest cheerleader tonight because they're trailing right behind Mentor in the rankings as well. And Mentor, I mean, this is the first week that they were put into the AP poll as well. They made their debut, so I'm sure they want to try to hold that spot, even try to move up in the rankings as well. But we have some very tough teams in Division I. We were just talking about Moeller. We were talking about some of the folks in Division I as well. We're talking about Ignatius and the St. Edward. We're going to find out what happens with the Wildcats tonight against Moeller. But no, definitely, I think right now in this game, Euclid's probably sitting back saying, come on, Solon. So,
well, the other thing is Stowe won last night, so they already have kind of elevated. They're another one pretty solidly in the top 8. They're looking to potentially host a first-round game.
Yeah, and if you're Mentor and you're Solon, you're kind of looking at Massillon Perry in a way, because Perry's sitting there in the 8th spot, but this is Division I, Region 1. And they've played 7 games. Only one of those teams has been Division I, Region 1. They've got 2 more against those kinds of teams where all the big computer points are, but one of them's undefeated Canton McKinley. So if you start looking at those secondary points, because of the schedule that Solon has played, because of the schedule Mentor has played, compared to the one for Perry, Perry's a team that is probably likely to slide out of that mix if Solon can get this win tonight.
Well, let's check back in at the St. Ignatius and Moeller game down in Columbus. Moeller with the lead, and little pump fake, throwing into the end zone. Oh, KO gets behind the defense, and Michael Thompson hits him with the touchdown, and a nice job of finding the man, and that made it 39-20. Wildcats trying to respond, and a safety. The sack, it comes out, but it's a safety. So 4th quarter, and it looks like Moeller is going to hand St. Ignatius their first defeat of the year. 41-20 the score.
Let's see where we start.
Well, speechless. I mean, that's one that we did not expect at St. Ignatius here. They came into this game on a roll. They came into this game having played a really, really tough schedule. It's not like they had to go all the way to Cincinnati. They went to Columbus instead. Sometimes you go to Cincinnati and it gets very, very difficult in that kind of environment. And Moeller's the team that we looked at the record 3-4 with some of the injuries that they had. 41-20. This is a statement for Moeller saying, hey, don't forget about us in this playoff mix. And if we get in as like an 8 seed or a 7 seed, 1 and 2, you better watch out here.
And the flip side of it is St. Ignatius doesn't get any easier. They play St. Xavier next Saturday, and then they have St. Ed's to finish out the regular season. So Wildcats are in the playoffs. I mean, that's not up for debate, really. The question is, you know, they could end up in the bottom half. Then all of a sudden, hey, you're the 3rd seed. You get to face St. Ignatius.
Right.
But as a coach, as Chuck Kyle, and you know, you definitely probably don't want to see these errors going on with your team right now. But now, also, if you don't mind, let me drift over to the Moeller right now. They're in the same region with Xavier, so they know that they have to prepare well. They have to make sure that whatever mistakes they were making in the first 7 weeks, they changed that coming into tonight. So obviously, they're showing that. They're showing that they took a beating and a pounding in the first 7 weeks, that they're ready for the playoffs. They're ready to move ahead here. So, but Ignatius, wow. I mean, that's a big surprise. I mean, I was just kind of just shaking my head in front of Chris, just saying, well, you got to be kidding me. So.
Well, we're going to step aside, take a quick timeout here on Friday Night Huddle. We'll be right back as we continue to wrap up Week 8 in high school football, along with Chris Fedor and Nate Klein from cleveland.com. I'm Dave Bacon. We'll be right back after this timeout.
This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Merrill! That is awesome!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are 2 outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contabelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports.
Now he shoots it!
for lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for.
Home of high school sports, Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post-Match. Only on Spectrum Sports. Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview. Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle. I'm Dave Bacon as we get set to wrap things up as Week 8 games are approaching the final gun and a couple of surprises. I mean, the one that really sticks out is who would have thought that Moeller would be up 21 in the fourth quarter on the St. Ignatius Wildcats.
I did.
I didn't either. It's been a dominant performance, too. I mean, it very easily could be plus 24 Moeller, plus 28 Moeller, plus 30-something Moeller with some of the missed opportunities that they had earlier in the game. And I think you have to give Moeller credit. A lesser team maybe hangs their head, maybe lets the missed opportunities get to them. They missed those opportunities. They were real, and yet they still kept coming, and they still kept making plays. And I think that's the mark of an experienced team, an experienced coaching staff, and a team that has been in these kinds of games against this kind of competition in the past.
Definitely a sense of urgency. You know, they missed out on the playoffs last year.
Yep.
And, you know, St. Ignatius handled them pretty handily in same situation where they played in Columbus. And this time they were ready. They were ready to come out and play like they needed to play.
Yeah, and this was something that I did not expect to happen, but Chris made a great point that the Wildcats were making some very uncharacteristic things tonight.
Yep.
For the games that I've seen them play, I've never seen them so far back in the end zone. I've never seen them miss on some of these opportunities that they have. So the Wildcats, you know, if the score goes the way it is right now, the Wildcats are going to have a very long conversation back to Cleveland after this game and getting ready to head for Xavier and St. Edwards.
Yeah. And you know what? That's not necessarily the worst thing that could happen. You know, what a game like that does is that if you have minor flaws and you don't pay attention to details, a game like this will expose it, and it allows the coach to just say, guys, you know, we've been talking about X, Y, and Z. Now you see why it's important.
Right. And sometimes players look at it and say, okay, yeah, we've been talking about X, Y, and Z, but we've been getting away with X, Y, and Z because we're 7-0, and we beat Elder 30-28, and we beat Glen Oak 34-20. And sometimes you're right, Dave. Sometimes a coach needs that loss, and sometimes players need a loss for those things that have been showing up to really, really become something that they then focus on and say, oh, yeah, okay, that's really a problem. We need to get this corrected before the postseason.
And keep in mind, you know, last year, St. Xavier, the team that beat St. Ignatius in double overtime in the state championship game, had 5 losses.
Yeah.
They were 5-5 in the regular season. St. Ignatius beat them by, I believe it was 28-7 in the regular season in week 9. So these games are all preparing all of the teams that know they're going to be in the playoffs for, okay, details matter, and this is why.
Right, and I think the truth is St. Ignatius is flawed, St. Ed's is flawed. A lot of these teams are flawed. Nobody's perfect here, especially in Division I. So the question is, are you going to run into a team that is capable of unmasking your flaws? And that sometimes will be the determining factor on a win or a loss. But that doesn't mean that the flaws don't exist. It just means that they've been covered up, sometimes by a pile of lesser opponents.
And I can't wait until probably the next couple of weeks or so. We're going to be going back to look at this game and just saying, man, you remember that Moeller game that they played and how they showed up? You know, I'm just curious just how this is going to play in the rest of their story for the rest of the year. But, you know, you even brought something to my memory last year with St. Xavier with their 5 losses. I think they talked to Coach afterwards, and he was very surprised. He was like, I can't believe we got this far with 5 losses. So, no, you're exactly right. But, you know, it looks like, if you can, clear up your mistakes and just try to win these key games that you need to and make some key plays, good things to happen. And obviously St. Xavier benefited from that, winning their state championship last year. So
yeah, they got on a roll, and it wasn't like it was an easy path. I mean, they ended up beating, the Colerains, they beat St. Ignatius. Teams that they had trouble with in the regular season, they corrected things and ended up winning and winning a state championship. Now, the other thing was, we'll flip the script a little bit. And we've talked a little bit about the Brush and the Chardon game. Brush is a team, that loss to East Lake North was unexpected. That was an upset.
Right.
If they are unable to come back and beat Chardon, now all of a sudden that playoff spot is in question.
Brush, but they need to clean up on defense.
Yeah.
They've given up so many points, and just that was a good sign in the first half where they just kind of shut out the Hilltoppers in that. So they're going to have to figure out how to clean this up. I mean, if they can, one, get out of this game against Chardon and try to win that game, but then two, I'm sure they talk about it all the time. You've got to clean up on the defense and clean up on these errors that you're making. So, but, it also doesn't help that the Hilltoppers brought back some of their key players that were missing last week in this game, and it looks like they're just pounding at the Brush right now. So
yeah, you're right, though. They have to worry about those things, Dave, because you've got Lakeside sitting there on the outside looking in, and then sneaky Brecksville Broadview Heights. And again, you don't want to say but if they beat Wadsworth, or if they find a way to beat Stowe, then you talk about all those points that Brecksville could get, and those are available for the Bees. Now, they have to take care of things on their end, but that makes them really, really sneaky. Right now, they're sitting at 12, but if one thing happens for them and Brush doesn't take care of business and they continue to allow, if they lose tonight against Chardon, those losses to pile up, suddenly the bottom of that division in that region changes significantly.
And just an update, I was actually checking 21-14 in favor of Chardon right now, 3:03 left. So Chardon's still just trying to hang on, trying to get this win. But Brush, I mean, obviously they've shown that they can score points in a short time span if they can. But obviously the big key is try not to commit any turnovers or try not to give up too many.
The other thing is you got to make sure you get the ball back. If Chardon gets the ball, you have to be able to give your offense the ball back.
And don't you think they're not going to run that football, because they love it. They love it. If you've never seen them, they love to run that football.
Yeah,
so.
and with that, they want to shorten the game.
Yeah.
Best way to shorten the game, run the football, pick up first downs.
And that keeps Brush's best player on the sidelines. And that's the thing. I mean, if you go back to last week's game, now, Godwin Joe was putting up some huge numbers, so me saying this, you might be like, Chris, calm down. But last week was the first time that he didn't throw for 400 and run for 100, okay? So you saw a little bit of an issue that Brush had offensively last week against East Lake North, and it appears to have carried over this week against Chardon.
Yeah, and obviously if you're thinking playoffs, that's a huge concern. The other one that's kind of an interesting, coming down to the wire, is that Solon Menor game.
Yep.
That's getting very close, and the Menor Cardinals, you don't want to give them the ball and you don't want Menor to have the ball last and be able to win the game with a touchdown, because inevitably they find a way to do that.
No, you're right. I mean, Tatis. I would love to have Tatis in a fantasy on a fantasy football team. I would love to have him. You know,
do they have fantasy high school?
We talk about it all the time. Where have you been?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I want to come on the show.
But
DFHS coming to Northeast Ohio.
But no question. I mean, the Mineral offense. I mean, they have the tools to be able to close a deficit. But the question is just then, you know, how's Solon going to respond? But right now they're ahead. I mean, they're the conference champions from last year. But you know, I mean, this is going to shape out. And there's a reason why this is called Game of the Weekend. You know, it's a very good game to watch. So.
But if it happens and it goes that way, you're talking about strength against strength. So if you're Solon and that comes to fruition, you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, okay, yes, Menner's offense is fantastic, and we understand that, and we know how good Tatarunas is, but our defense is darn good too. So if we need a stop or a handful of stops in order to win this game, I'm good with our defense being out there.
Yeah.
You have to have that mentality if you're Solon, because that's who you are, right?
I'd feel a lot better if it was an 8-point game and we needed to stop as opposed to a 3-point game.
Most certainly. I'd feel a lot better if you're in victory formation, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I've just seen what, in the Steve Trevisano era, what that offense has been able to do against some really good defenses. Normally you say a really good defense shuts down a really good offense. It's not always the case because there's the Menner offense curve. And it's all graded on a curve with that.
Yeah. And Solon, I mean, coming into this game, they had to play like their backs were against the wall.
And they did. You know what? They came out and played really well. And you know, the game is still very much in doubt with 3 minutes remaining in it. So, you know, clearly the Comets, the unfortunate thing is a really good team in Division I, Region 1 is not going to make the playoffs. There's going to be one of them.
Well, last year it was Menner, right?
Right.
I mean, that was the team that we looked at and said, oh my gosh, that team's missing the playoffs. So that's life in Division I, Region 1. That's why you really run a risk. Even though you load that schedule up and it prepares you for the postseason, you really run a risk if you're in the 3-loss, 4-loss category because of how stacked Division I, Region 1 is.
And don't think in a couple of weeks that we're going to come back and say, hey, you remember Week 8 when Ignatius fell to Moeller? Or do you remember when Menner or Solon won that particular game? You know, this is going to be this is a big key game. This is a big key week for all those teams moving ahead for the playoffs. But, you know, right now it looks like I said, I mean, Solon's playing like they want to spot. So
yeah, and you know what? If they end up beating a team like Menner in Week 8, and they can finish out the season the way they need to, they'll have earned the right to be in Division I, Region 1's playoffs. I mean, there's not going to be a free pass into that playoff with the 9 teams that are really, and I know there's a couple others that are still theoretically alive, but basically it's 9 for 8.
Yeah, and again, I used this analogy last year. Got made fun of a bit for it, but you don't want to be the kid that goes to the market as part of the team that missed the playoffs. Solon hasn't missed the playoffs since 2012. You come into every single, if you go to Solon, you come into every single year and you're thinking conference championship and you're thinking playoff spot. And if you're part of the class that misses the postseason, that's not a blemish that you want on your resume. So these kids obviously have a ton of motivation, they have a ton of pride, and they're playing for school and city, and they don't want to be the black sheep of the community as the senior class that missed the playoffs for the first time since 2012.
And man, I'm really curious to see.
Way to ruin somebody's high school life. I'm just kidding.
But I'm really curious to see if Solon pulls this game out, how that's going to throw the conference into shape. Because Euclid is the only team that says, look, we have a chance to probably win out on this conference title if we can beat Menner as well. But again, I mean, there's still time to play in this game. But again, but just mark my words, just watch how all this plays out if Solon were able to come out with a win against the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, we could be talking about this great win that they do here suddenly. So we'll just see. That's just
the beauty of the show.
The beauty of that, the beauty of the game of the week, all of that. So.
Yeah.
You know, the fun is just starting. This is Week 8, and we're starting to talk like that. As Week 9 comes, the picture gets a little clearer, and we can talk even. And as Week 10 comes, then you know basically this team needs to win. If this team wins, you know the one thing is you want to take care of as much of your business as you can early,
right?
Because you don't want it to come down to Week 10 and you need some team that has 4 wins that needs to beat a team with 3 wins to get you into the. And that's That's literally what happens.
I know. I'll let you handle that. When I went to Baldwin Wallace for broadcasting, they didn't tell me there was going to be any of this math. I'm looking at Joe Itel right now trying to compute these things in my head, and I'm just like, forget it, man. That's not happening.
We'll look at it and find out who's in when the playoff match. Yeah, I got you. But, you know, the good news is Solon's defense is held, so they force Menor to punt him the ball back. They're getting the ball back with a little under 3 minutes left and a fresh set of downs. So if you can get Thomas Wilkes to pick up a couple first downs, have Menor burn some timeouts, that's the game plan if you're the Solon Comets.
Yeah, and Thomas Wilkes, I mean, he will definitely be key in that stretch, and Menor's just going to be kind of licking their chops like, can we get on the field? Can we get on the field? Or can we try to get a turnover and try to get a score in? So, you know, that's a great sign early in the game. We were talking about those 3 turnovers for the Solon defense, and it's a great sign that they were able to hold up here late in the game. So,
we talked about it at the very beginning of the show. Head coach Jim McQuaid says it every single week that we have any kind of conversation with him. In Solon, it's about our defense. Our defense is our backbone. And yes, our offense has been playing much better since the loss against Stowe in week 3, but it's always about our defense. And if we're going to make the postseason and if we're going to make noise in the postseason, it's going to be because our defense is that good.
Well, one of the games we're tracking is the Chardon and Brush game. And let's check in as the Brush Arcs offense trying to get things rolling. It's 4th down. Godwin Joe steps up and throws. Oh, Donovan Johnson goes up and grabs it. And he takes off into the end zone for the touchdown. The Arcs get into the end zone and put it on the board. 21-14, the Arcs lead.
How about that? One big play, just like that. That's what Godwin Joe's capable of. That's what the Brush offense is capable of. Now, Chardon's in an uncomfortable spot here, trailing late in the game.
Yeah, now mind you, I'm actually trying to keep up with the updates here, but you know it looks like the score is even tighter now, 21-20, and Chardon's going for 2. So you know we're going to go back to this in a minute here shortly, but but no, I mean this is shaping out for one, it's a great game, and 2, it shows that 2 teams are trying to fight for a good spot in the playoffs. So. I guess we shouldn't be surprised right now, but Brush, you know, that, again, we were talking about their defense, and it looks like right now they're making the key stops they need to so they can get the offensive ball back.
So let's check in on this Menor and Solon game. 3:20 left in the game, and Solon with the football on 2nd down and 1. Bad snap, and look, Mike Bray comes up with it for the Menor Cardinals. Oh my! Oh, that's.
I mean, technically it's a takeaway, but really it's a giveaway. Holy moly!
I'm with you.
If you don't mind, let me ask a question. So you're Trevisano right now. These 3:14. What's I mean, obviously you're trying to use as much of that clock up as possible. Any ideas? Yeah.
Right now you're just trying to score. It's 3rd down and 9. As if we can. Take a look at it. You see 2:44 remaining, 3rd down and 9 from about the 28-yard line. Tatarunas, time to throw. He's intercepted, picked off. So the big turnover coming up with the pick for it's Bubonics. A nice job by Bubonics to go up and come up with the pick. Sam Bubonics, the free safety. Read it like a book. He's a junior. Oh, look at that. Full extension. That is a top play, young man.
And Tatarunas did the right thing. He looked off to his left, and then he came back middle. But Bubonics, that is some height on the interception. We said right before that play, can Solon's defense make a play again? And the answer, yes.
So the defense bails out the bad snap.
Yeah.
I mean,
basket of muffins going to that defense too. I mean, we're seeing it all night though. Offense putting defense in bad position, defense putting offense in bad position. That's what you love to see. These offenses or these defenses picking them up.
So the question is, if a basket of muffins goes to the defense, what does the offense that snapped the ball over the quarterback's head get?
Coal.
A basket of rocks?
Coal.
They're going to be running. They're going to be running at practice.
Running and
you know
push-ups.
that. That's all that center was thinking right there. Like,
He
man.
he has just become the biggest Sam Bubonics fan.
Yes.
In the entire locker room is the young man that snapped the ball over the head. So
but if I saw correctly, Menor 2 timeouts.
Yeah, they do.
And Solon backed up against the goal line. So if you're Menor,
the defense got after it and they lost a few yards. But there's your get out of jail free card. You give it to Thomas Wilkes, and he's still running.
Whoa!
Thomas Wilkes. You don't want to let him get in the open field because he is one of the 100-meter sprint guys who's in the top 10 in the state. So Thomas Wilkes, open field bad if you're trying to keep the
Boy, look at him so
in.
close there, just getting ready to jump. Oh,
what do you get?
Boy, look at the cut.
Look at it.
That is the best 9-yard run I've ever seen in my life, if that's what it was.
Well, I think he ran about 65 yards to get the 9. Then, now he ran back, then he cut out the field, and then he ran there.
And now suddenly, if you're Menor, you're thinking, okay, we're going to use our timeouts. We're going to get the ball back in great field position. They're going to have a 3rd and long, most likely. And
So
now all of a sudden it's 3rd down and 2.
And you've used one. You only have one left, and it's 137.
Right.
Now, here's another question. If you're still backed up in your own end, do you take the safety and go free kick? Now, the danger of that is then a field goal beats you. But the advantage is you don't risk getting a kick blocked deep in your own end.
Right, or a return for a touchdown.
Right. These are all the things that if I'm thinking them, Jim McQuaid's thinking them as well.
Sure. But Wilkes with that run, I mean, that could be play of the night candidate if they get this first down. Because if they get this first down, game over. Had Menor gotten the stop there, you're talking about 3rd down and long. They're going to get the ball probably right around midfield so.
But let me correct you. The play of the night is Sam Bubonics jumping up 8 feet.
We've got a lot of candidates.
And intercepting that pass. Because that pass is what gave you the opportunity to not be down with a couple minutes left. And he came out of nowhere. They might as well just put a cape on him and change the 2 to an S.
Good luck
because
to
he
whoever's
flew up in
ranking
the
him.
end zone.
Putting them 1 to 15 is not going to be easy tonight. We've seen some dandies. I still like that one-handed catch. That one's got to be up there.
So JT Caver, and if
he can run too,
I give him the option. With a guy like that, roll him out, put the pressure on your linebackers and your defensive back. Decide: are you going to cover?
Yeah.
Or are you going to come after?
But you're also telling him if you're going to roll out and it's going to be a run-pass option, eat it. No incomplete pass.
And they give it and again, Wilkes does it, and you force them to use their timeout.
Well, this is the scenario that you laid out, Dave, because Menor's offense going to get the ball back out of timeouts, but with about, 120 maybe, right around there, against the Solon defense. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's what you want if you're both teams.
Well,
in a way.
Yeah.
If you can't get victory formation.
Yeah. I'm not sure I like that idea, but I'll go with you on that, sure. If I'm Solon's defense, I'd really like Menor to be a lot further back in their own territory.
Yeah.
Having said that, you've come up with turnovers time and time again. That defense has come up with big turnovers all night long. Whew. So there's Jim McQuaid. So you want to be a head football coach.
Yeah. 4th and 1, punt it away here. Lean on your defense.
And if you're Steve Trevisano, I don't think you come after this. I think you try to set up a return. The danger is if you rough the kicker, the game's over.
Right.
And you
run into the kicker, the game's over.
You always think worst case scenario. If I'm Solon, I may try to draw him off sides too. So there they do. They line up in punt formation and no one near the kicker. And it's a line drive, and it takes a really nice bounce and goes out of bounds as Logan Shea wisely wanted no part of that. You give your offense the chance to go and score because that's the unit if you're Menor you rely on, is you rely on that offense. And there's Steve Trevisano. 1:23 left, 1st and 10.
No timeouts, but 123 in high school football is a lifetime.
Right.
And you only need a field goal, technically, to tie it.
And keep in mind, after you get a first down, the time stops while you move the chains.
Yep.
So that gives you time to get up and get your play called and get your formation set. And Mentor's used to doing that. So Tatarunas, 5 wide receivers calling the play at the line of scrimmage, basically.
Empty.
That's not a surprise. Spread them out and throw it. Incomplete. Logan Shea, an interesting guy. That's a young guy that has started in the defensive backfield since his freshman year. They need another athlete as a wide receiver, so they flip him over, and he's playing both ways this year.
Yeah, and he came into tonight's game, 40 catches, 516 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And then the first play to start this drive, of course, he's looking for Shea.
And again, he's the guy that returns kicks, he returns punts. Tatarunas throws to Shea underneath, and you see some of the athleticism, steps out of one tackle, gets out of bounds. So it's third down, but it's third and short. And again, what this offense for Mentor does, spread you out, and then we're going to pick which matchup we like based on who you're defending them with. Nobody's defending Logan Shea because they're in a zone look. So we're going to throw to Logan Shea. That's just kind of the way that offense works. And there's Shea again. They're in motion to see if they get him manned up. Tatarunas deep over the middle. And obviously, Floria grabs it, and it's a first down inside the 30-yard line. So
it's one of those plays where I was like, no. Oh, okay, that works. I mean, going to his left, throwing back to the right against that kind of defense, not often you get away with that, but that's a huge play. Now they're right around field goal range.
And you see why this Mentor offense is so difficult, because, again, they'll spread you out, and they pick the matchup that they think is most advantageous.
I mean, that's been their calling card for years, and that's why the other thing that you like about this offense is that these kids have been in the same offense, in the same system since like junior high, so they know it inside and out. And in this kind of situation, like a 2-minute drill, this is like backyard football for them because they're so prepared.
And they have it inside the 10-yard line. As Tatarunas found Derek Kleinheinz, another one of those guys. And again, notice we're saying different names. Logan Shea, Floria, Kleinheinz. These are all guys that they're picking up the matchup and finding, okay, this guy is open, this guy's open, this guy runs this route well, this is the area of the field that I like to throw to him in. And it's very precise, very well choreographed. And right now it's being executed very well. And this, I've seen how this ends, and it's not the way Solon wants it to end.
And if you're Solon, at some point maybe you consider bringing the house, bringing some pressure, but it's so hard when you've got so many different weapons for Mentor, and if they win a one-on-one matchup, it's a touchdown.
So there's first and goal from the 8. Tatarunas throws. And a nice job to... Oh! Logan Shea breaks free, dives into the end zone for the touchdown. 42 seconds left. Bubonics had him, the guy who had the interception, and Shea just fought through it.
And Solon, it was a pretty good set by the defense because they brought pressure from that same side. Smart by Tatarunas to target that side. And then at that point, when you bring the pressure, you're just hoping... Okay, stop them short of the goal line, make a play, make a tackle, run some time off the clock, make them have to hurry, and they just didn't do the most important thing on that play, which is make the tackle short of the goal line. Obviously, you give credit to Shea for fighting through that and not giving up, but for Solon, I mean, you played it defensively the way that you wanted to without getting the sack, and you just didn't make the play.
43 seconds left. The conference champions are down by 4.
Yeah.
I'm just going to curious to see how they're going to play this out here. But,
well,
heck of a job by Logan there to not try to go down.
I mean, that's what Steve Trevisano does. Okay, we've got a guy that's a really good athlete who's one of our best defensive backs. We need help at receiver. Let's put our really good athlete at receiver, and you saw him make a play.
Yeah,
that's just a guy he's an athlete that you got the ball and he made the play.
And for Solon, you were in the same spot last week against Euclid, down in the game, ball in the hands of your quarterback, JT Caver. You drove down the field, got around the 30-yard line, around the 25-yard line, And then unfortunately for Solon, you threw a pick in the end zone. But now you're back in this same kind of situation. Let's see what you learned from that experience and see if there's anything that you can put towards this one. I would think if you're Solon, you want to target Travion Raphael.
But boy, if Solon goes down and loses this game, unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think we counted 4 interceptions tonight against Tatis. That's incredible, and you still lose the game. But again, 43 seconds left. They still have some time. See what they're going to do about this.
But to your point, Nate, that's the kind of pressure that Moeller constantly puts on you. It's a meat grinder, and it's so difficult that you have to almost be perfect. Not necessarily perfect. There's no such thing, but close to it all night long. And one slip up, one mistake, and it could be the difference.
Here's the kickoff. Keep in mind you do have Thomas Wilkes, and Solon or Mentor had that in mind, and they kick it short. But that gives you a little bit of a shorter field. So now it's the 38-yard line, and you see 40 seconds remaining. The reason you kick that short is you want no part of the sprint guy, Thomas Wilkes. So if you are the Solon Comets, what you're looking at is you're probably trying to find a way to get it to either Raphael or Wilkes. Those are your 2 speed guys.
And we've seen all night long for Solon, they've been able to find the big play. Maybe they haven't had the sustained drives. Maybe they don't have as many first downs as Moeller, but they have been able to come up with the big play. Obviously, Moeller's going to be playing for that now, and it's going to be a different kind of defense. But just get the ball in your hands of your best players and see if you can give them a shot.
And they bring in Taj Ward. That's another D1 defensive back recruit for Solon. And it's tipped and picked off. Bray, who recovered the fumble, comes up with the interception, and Moeller is going to win it. So Mike Bray, 2 big defensive plays. He's the guy that got on the bad snap. He intercepts the tipped pass that clinches it. If the other guys get muffins, what does he get?
It's a very good question.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
Maybe donuts. Who knows? Heck of a play right there.
Oh, man.
Man, for Solon, tough 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, Solon, golly, just trying to digest all this.
Yeah,
it's
I
incredible.
know.
So,
I mean, now you're scoreboard watching for the last couple of weeks of the season. Obviously, you have to take care of business against Shaker Heights and Medina, but
and that'll help. What you're doing, you become a big cheerleader for the Federal League teams that are playing Perry. Because it's likely going to be Perry or Solon for that 8th spot in Division I, Region 1. One thing is certain, we have to step aside and take a timeout, and we will get a look at some of the plays that have turned our heads. The top plays will be ahead. You're watching Friday Night Huddle as we wrap up Week 8 of high school football all across the Buckeye State, and that game has gone final with Mentor defeating Solon. We'll be back here on Friday Night Huddle on cleveland.com after this quick timeout.
This city, this club stands with you.
Danger from Mira! That is awesome!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are 2 outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Every week, from the locker room to the pitch and everywhere in between, Access Crew SC is your ultimate inside look at the black and gold. Join Marissa Contepelli, Dwight Burgess, and Neil Sika for unmatched coverage, in-depth analysis, and exclusive talks with the players and coaches. This is your club. This is your Access. Access Crew SC, Wednesdays on Spectrum Sports. Lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Have you ever lived for something? Have you ever dreamt of something? Something more? Something special? Something bigger than yourself? Well, have you? This is what you live for!
High school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum. Crew SC Match Day. Every match, 30 minutes before the kick. Delivering everything fans need to know. With live reports, unmatched analysis, club news, and more. After the game, stay here for Crew SC Post-Match. From the biggest moments to the road ahead, Crew SC Match Day and Crew SC Post Match. Only on Spectrum Sports. Wednesday nights, get ready for kickoff with Spectrum Sports. High School Blitz Preview. The can't-miss show for all things high school football. We'll break down team news, the latest standings, and what to expect on the road to Canton. High School Blitz Preview, Wednesday nights at 7 on Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
They are the plays that have turned heads and require one more look. You know what we do, the top 15 plays from the night. Let's start things out here in Week 8 as we look at the top 15 plays. Number 15 from the Dayton area, Butler and Piqua. Tie game late in the fourth quarter, fourth down. Piqua's Austin Davis to Hayden Shrub. He grabs it 29 yards for the touchdown. More on this game a bit later.
We move on to number 14. St. Vincent St. Mary didn't have a lot of offense, but they had defense swarming here, getting the safety against LaSalle. Plenty more from this game later as well.
Let's take you back to the Dayton area. Butler down 7 on the final drive of the game. Pick was Ben Schmeezing rips the ball away. Schmeezing is going to be the Buckeye next year. Check that out.
Number 12, Benedictine's Mateus Schmelski with the 22-yard touchdown run. Oh, look at him bounce it outside, then finds the end zone. More from this game in a minute.
Number 11, it was a good one between Brush and Chardon. Conference hopes on the line, and this is Mitchell Kellogg, the third. Big haul up the middle, 34-yard touchdown run for the Arcs.
Check out Minter's favorite fantasy football player, Tatis Tatarunas, to Luke Floria with a 44-yard touchdown pass. Oh, yeah. More from these two later.
Number 9, Hudson's Colt Pelé, the quarterback. And he finds Colin Poltani, a nice grab in the end zone, 11 yards. Still more from this game a little bit later.
Big night for Padua, big season for Padua as we move to number 8. This is Drew Butler dropping back, throwing deep right side, and Colin Pavlis. 23-yard touchdown pass, one-handed catch. Why use two when you can snag it with one? Padua beats Benedictine 31-17.
All right, check out the comments receiver here. Trayvon Raphael with this 74-yard touchdown run. Look at him go against those Comets.
Breaks a tackle. That was big.
More from this game later.
Chris, you left him on your bench in fantasy football. I know that.
I did.
Moeller, Colin Thurman, take a look. Gets outside, turns upfield, and then says, I'm gone. 73 yards. Thurman, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns more on this game in just a minute.
How about number 5, Stowe's Terrian Ray? We've heard his name a lot this year. He gets the handoff. Wait for it. Hurdles a man right over the defender. Yes, that's a penalty in high school football, but it doesn't change how fantastic that play was. Stowe got the win 35-23 over Hudson. Yes, illegal plays count in the top place.
All right, check out LaSalle's Griffin Merritt to Jacob Seibert for the 84-yard touchdown. Oh, yes, the Fighting Irish. Oh, look at him. Lancers win 17-9 over St. Vincent St. Mary on the road.
The top 3, number 3, mentors, Tadas Tatarunas. Pump fake. Oh, all kinds of time. Rolls out, steps out of a tackle, reads a book, directing traffic, landing airplanes. He finds Luke Floria on the deflection and into the end zone. This is like a McDonald's commercial. Nothing but net.
Oh my gosh, he had
Off the defender, into his hands. Great concentration by Floria. Man. And then he turns it into a touchdown.
You said more from this game. How about number 2? This is Solon's Sam Bubonics. Late in the game, Tatarunas throws over the middle. Bubonics high points it. Clutch interception for the Comets. Unfortunately, it just was not enough.
Maybe when football season is, maybe he'll try for the basketball team. We'll see. All right, number 1, Taz Tatarunas. If you look carefully, you can see somebody hitting the turbo button on this. To Logan Shea, look at him, turbo! Give me that!
The turbo button? I think that's the brake tackle button. What is that?
Cardinals won 38-34 against Greater Cleveland Conference opponent, Solon.
That's a tough way to lose. That was with 40-some seconds left in the game. So, again, those will be up online at cleveland.com. You can vote on them starting at noon. You can vote as early as you like. You can vote as often as you like. They'll be up until noon on Thursday. And if you're a rebel, vote for the play that was illegal. Chris Fedor told me to say that. Let's head to the phones. We're going to be joined by Bryant Kaiser. Bryant, as always, you had a wild one. What happened with Perry and Orange?
The final score, Perry 40, Orange 28. I must have put the whammy on. I said at halftime it was going to be some more, but hey, second half, the defense of Perry took care of it, and they get out of here with a victory.
So if it's the first one to 60, you don't get to go home. You have to stay. You have to stay there.
I got the coach on the line. I got Coach Matt from Perry. He's standing right next to me.
Coach Rossitano, congratulations. Talk to us a little bit about some of the adjustments you made defensively in that second half to bring home the win against Orange.
The biggest thing for us was just trying to, get settled in. Orange is a very explosive football team, and our guys were just, they were all revved up. We made some mistakes. We missed some tackles and gave up some big plays. But once we got settled in the second quarter, our defense did a pretty good job to help us get the victory.
I know as a coach, you're always looking for points to focus on going into the next game, even in wins. How much are you going to focus on those slow starts, especially when you had that one last week and tonight?
Well, offensively, we scored 34 points in the first half, so we really didn't struggle offensively. Defensively, we just needed to make some adjustments and get used to their playmakers. We gave up some big plays, but we still did make quite a few mistakes tonight. We had, I think, 3 touchdowns called back because of penalties. So those are just things we still need to try to continue and clean up. But, it was a big football game and a big win for our guys. So, 8-0, we can't complain.
Let's talk a little bit about Colston Brewster. That's a guy that a lot of people in the area might not be aware of. He's a special one. What makes him such a good quarterback?
Well, Colston's very accurate with the football for the most part. He's a very intelligent young man, and he loves the game, and that that's the key. A kid that has a lot of heart and loves the football game. So he played real well tonight, and he made some good decisions, and at times we made some bad decisions, but he learned from his mistakes and was able to guide us to a victory.
Coach, when your offense is going the way it has been, what are we seeing? What has been? What's the key to making that offense be so efficient and effective?
Well, it's distribution. We have 5 guys that are very, very good with the football. 5 guys that can score from anywhere, and we're hard to defend in that way. Our guys are they're explosive, and you never know which night who's gonna do what. But they're tough to defend because they can make big plays anywhere on the field.
Coach, what do you tell your kids after this one? Obviously, a big win, and you played really well in the second half. You put away a game that was close against a good opponent. What did you tell your guys after this, or what are you going to tell your guys?
Well, pretty much, we knew this was going to be a tough game, a difficult game coming here. So we just said, hey, we just have to clean up our mistakes, and we just can't be the team to beat us. That's the most important thing. Just don't beat ourselves, and we knew it was going to be a tough game, and we're happy we're getting out of here with a victory.
Coach, so many people, whether they want to or not, they start looking ahead at this time of year and potential playoff matchups, and the conversation of Perry-Steubenville has been going since last year, obviously. How difficult has it been for your kids to stay focused on the moment and not start looking ahead?
Well, to be honest with you, that's all we do is look ahead. That's our number one goal. Our number one priority is to meet Steubenville again. Our entire off season has been built around that. And, so we are looking ahead, to be quite honest with you. Obviously we would like to win a conference championship, and we would like to end the season undefeated. But our number one priority, our number one goal is to beat the Big Red.
Coach, we appreciate it. Congratulations, and good luck to you.
Thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
That is my guy. Forget the cliches, man. Throw those out the window. I love it. I love the attitude. That's awesome.
You know what? If think about it though, that's the goal. Why not make it the goal?
Right.
Don't leave it unstated. And you know what? They have the talent to go do it.
Without question.
Yeah, and a fun story for you. When I went to go visit Perry in the offseason, Coach and I were talking about just the whole Steubenville and last year's finish and everything. And when I showed up at practice, the guys were still running like suicides, and Coach was bringing me into it. He was like, basically like, Nate, asking me, no, Nate, this is not as hard to do this. And I was like, yeah, and I got a bunch of football players looking at me like you better say something in our way. But what was so funny was,
run with us, Nate.
Yeah, but what I told him, I said, look, hey, it's great preparation for you guys to get back there, right? And all of a sudden one guy looked at me and said, well said. So anyway, but no, I mean, right now they're doing everything that they need to get these wins, and Big Red, it's knocking, so.
Well, you know what? Go get them, Pirates. Well, one of the games that we were keeping an eye on was the Barberton game against Talmadge. Barberton opened it up in the second half and really put away Talmadge pretty quickly. Our Ryan Isley had a chance to talk with head coach Anthony Gatto. Take it away, Ryan.
Coach, it felt like a momentum switch, really, at the beginning of the game. You guys held them to the field goal. Defensively, how big was that for you guys?
Oh, it was good. I mean, we did some silly things at the beginning to shoot ourselves in the foot, but our kids, responded and played defense the rest of the game, played well.
What was the message at halftime? Because you guys seemed to come out a little bit more inspired.
Just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, we stalled a couple times on offense, and defensively I thought we were playing a pretty good game. Limit the penalties, and let's just do what we do.
It's another good game defensively all around. It felt like, again, holding them to just 3 points and really not letting them give any momentum going offensively. What is that attributed to?
Our guys play hard. I mean, they play hard every play. We train, very hard, and our kids are ready to play. They play good physical football, and we're 8-0. I'm excited for him.
How great is it to have a kid like Zane running the offense?
Hey, I love Zane to death, but we got a lot of great kids. I love them all, man.
And Zane Reese, no interceptions in the season. So through 8 weeks, clean in the interception, and he's above 21 touchdowns as well.
And #respect. Yeah, no, I mean Barberton. They're playing like they're on the team on a mission right now. Those two losses last year to Aurora, and also in the playoffs put them out. Boy, they're on a mission right now. And just as Coach pointed out, there's other players on that team that are playing that is making this magic happen for Barberton. Yes. I added it, but heck of a job right now by Barberton right now. They look like they're in good position right now to do well in the playoffs. So.
And that defense again. We're talking about a team in Talmadge that came in the last 2 games averaging 29 points per game. So for Barberton to hold them to 3 points on the heels of holding St. Vincent St. Mary to 14. You're starting to put the pieces together and understand, 1, why this team is 8-0, and 2, why they feel like they deserve more respect and more love when it comes to the big picture in the playoffs.
Let's check in with Ryan Isley. Ryan was at the game and covered it. Ryan, tell me about what your impressions of the Magic have been. You've seen them a couple times now.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I feel like they're not getting probably the respect and maybe the notoriety that they deserve right now at 8-0. I think early in the season, people saw them undefeated and thought, well, let's see what they do against really good competition. Well, they went out, they beat Copley, they beat Aurora, who's had their number, they beat St. V, and now they beat Talmadge soundly. So at what point do we finally start talking about Barberton as a viable candidate to not only go undefeated, but maybe make a run in the postseason?
Yeah, I kind of went out there in the preseason and got the sense that they were ready to do that. What about their defense? Everybody likes to talk about Zane Reese. That defense may be a little underappreciated. Key Thompson, one of their linebackers, is a Ohio University commit, and he's a pretty good one.
He's a really good one, and they have several others who are really good on the defensive end, and they are a good cohesive unit defensively, which makes a difference between having just a couple of good players defensively and having a good unit. And tonight, like I told you guys earlier in the game, they allowed Talmadge to come down and drive that first drive of the game. Now, there were a couple of penalties. I believe there was 35 yards in penalties in that drive against Barberton's defense. But the defense held up, gave up the field goal, and Key Thompson told me after the game that they felt like that was a momentum builder. It gave them energy once they were able to get that stop and only give up the field goal. And you could see it in their eyes after that. They were coming out. They didn't want to give up any more points, and they didn't. They really held this Talmadge offense down for the most part. They gave a couple of short drives, but never really allowed Talmadge to maybe even feel like they were actually in the football game.
Hey, Ryan, we were joking in the studio earlier about being fantasy football managers. I'm curious, if you're the manager of this Barberton football team, are there any holes that you see right now that you want to probably see them clean up here in the next couple of weeks before the playoffs start?
If anything, and I honestly can't tell tonight if they were legit, but maybe the penalty situation, they're going to want to clean that up. They got a couple of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties after plays, twice after they stopped Talmadge on 4th downs. Once the play was over, there was an unsportsmanlike. Now they got the football, but then they were 15 yards further back. But again, that was one of those. It felt like every little thing was getting called on that end tonight. So it'd be interesting to see going forward. But the penalties tonight might have been the only thing I would say, if I'm Barberton, I've got to clean this up. Because otherwise, they played a really complete football game for the second time in 3 weeks that I've seen them. And from people I talked to that were at the St. V game last week, they played a really great game last week as well. So 3 straight weeks, and you could throw that Copley game in as well against good competition where they have come out and they've shown up and been the better team on the football field. People are looking at this going, oh, well, that's just Talmadge. Well, you have to remember, Talmadge right now, coming into this game, they were the second seed in Division III, Region 9 in the state playoff poll coming into this week. So it isn't like Talmadge is a pushover this year. Talmadge has been very good. They were 6-1. The only loss they had was a 1-point loss to Aurora coming into this week. And Barberton just came out and annihilated them. They manhandled Talmadge almost from start to finish.
Ryan Isley, we appreciate the update. Barberton defeats Talmadge in stays 8-0. We're going to step aside and take one more timeout here on Friday Night Huddle. We will put a wrap on Week 8 after this quick timeout.
This is it. Your big break. Your one shot. Your only chance. There are two outcomes. Make history or be history.
The home of high school sports. Spectrum Sports. Exclusively on Spectrum. This city, this club, stands with you.
Danger from Mira!
What you live for lives here.
The volley, Kamara, yes!
Ohio's television home of Columbus Crew SC. Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Now he shoots it!
What you live for lives here. We are Spectrum Sports, exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Friday Night Huddle. The Mentor Cardinals, just a dramatic win over the Solon Comets. And our Jeff Sabo had a chance to talk with Steve Trevisano, head coach for Mentor.
All right, Coach Trevisano, your team was down in the second half. What really helped you guys propel and get the momentum back?
Our defense did a good job after those first two drives in that second half and really held them and got the ball back for us. And we just stayed and kept playing our game, and we didn't panic, and we did a good job.
And then taking a look at your quarterback, Tadas Tatarunas. He threw 4 interceptions, however, you guys still walked away with the victory. What really helped you guys?
You know, he bared down at the end, and, it was a little slick on the ball today and got a little bit high on him, but, he just kept battling and stuck to it, and his boys took care of it.
And then you talked about that defense before the game when you and I were talking about, the defense, they really came up and made some key stops at certain times.
They did. They really played well because we put them in a lot of bad spots on offense, and they did a great job, battled, and got us where we needed to.
And then what does your team have to do from here on out to continue to control
we got to keep getting
destiny?
better. We got to stop turning it over. We got to keep getting better and get ready to go.
All right, Coach. Hey, thank you as always.
So there you have it. Steve Trevisano, obviously, with the 4 picks, wants to see his team stop turning the ball over, and they will need to clean that up without question. Well, let's take a look at the scoreboard from around the area as we wrap up Week 8 of high school football. You see Mentor, that 4-point win. The big surprise, Moeller, 21-point win over St. Ignatius. LaSalle by 8. Barberton with the big win. Olmstead Falls put 41 up on Midview.
Hey, Nate.
Perry puts 40 up on Orange.
All right. Yeah,
hey, Padua widens that up and wins by 14. Chardon goes for 2 and doesn't make it, so Brush wins 21-20.
Wow.
Avon Lake, 28-24 winner over Berea Mid Park, and Lakewood beats Westlake by 3. So, guys, biggest surprise, biggest takeaway from Week 8. Nate, we'll start with you since you've set the stage for us.
I'm going to go away from a lot of these the popular games that we were following here, but
why talk about Midview Olmstead Falls?
Lakewood, 28-25 win, ends a 17-game losing streak.
Wow.
The Rangers get the horses. The Rangers are going to have a party in Lakewood tonight. So, yeah.
I would say Chardon and Brush. I mean, it seemed like it was a game that was played at Chardon's tempo the whole night, a score that was favoring Chardon the whole night, and this was, if Chardon wins, they basically lock up the conference championship. They would have had a 2-game lead and then maybe solidify themselves in Division III Region 9. They came into the night 8th in Division III Region 9, so not a team that really could afford this kind of loss against Brush. And for Brush, I mean, we wanted to know, how are you going to bounce back after that East Lake North game? Do you have a defense? All of those different questions, and they come up, they make one play at the end of the game. They stop a 2-point conversion, and now they're back in the mix for not just a conference championship, but right there in the heart of the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about it, initially the question is, boy, they went for 2, but the more you think about it, Chardon ran the ball effectively. You look at it, and you probably feel, if you're Chardon, we can get 2 yards. We're running the football all over them. But, you know, Brush points to them. They come up, they make the play, and they get the win, and that's a huge win because that's going to, you know, Chardon's a team that's going to have 6, 7, 8 wins at the end of the year. One of those.
And one more point to talk about, Chris, here. Olmstead Falls with the win against Midview, considering how well Midview has done in the previous 7 games here against teams. Olmstead Falls was trailing Midview in the region, so we could see a switch after this week in the polls. We'll see what happens.
That's the Bulldogs along with the Grizzlies that now want to talk to Nate Klein outside.
And lastly, this is going to be a showdown in the conference between Euclid and Mentor right now, because neither team has a loss in the conference. So chances are whoever wins that game could win the conference.
Now I'm not necessarily surprised at the fact that Moeller beat St. Ignatius. I am surprised that they beat them by 21, and that we saw a number of turnovers and some special teams issues. That's very unlike St. Ignatius.
And don't you think Xavier and St. Edward is not going to get that game film and find out what exactly did they do? And obviously the turnovers, I mean, that's got the lead of it. But definitely they're going to see, you know, where can they try to find some bright spots and try to see if they can try to beat this Wildcats team.
And I think the other thing for St. Ignatius, you go into Week 9 and you're relatively unsure about your quarterback situation. You kind of bounce back and forth. And, you know, that's the last thing that you want, is to have questions at that spot as the playoffs fast approach. Now, if there's a team that's going to figure it out before that time, it's St. Ignatius, and they've got other things that they can lean on because they are so balanced and they are so deep. But to have those kinds of questions this late in the season after kind of rotating them, not necessarily the place that you want to be.
Now, you know, I think they feel they can win with either quarterback. And you know, important to note that that St. Ignatius-Xavier game, you can watch it at 3 o'clock live on Spectrum Sports. Ryan Kavanaugh and I will have the call. So, you know, coming into the week, that was prepared to be the matchup of number 1 and number 2 in the state. That's not going to be the case with St. Ignatius losing. They'll drop, but they won't drop that far, and they will definitely be in the mix when the playoffs get started. So we've got 2 more weeks of the regular season. Nate Klein, Chris Fedor, Dave Bacon. We'll see you next week on Friday Night Huddle, Week 9 of the regular season.
The High School Sports Insider is brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. By the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. By Spectrum Sports. By Dominion East Ohio. Dominion, it all starts here. And by Classic Teleproductions. The middle of October means Halloween is closing in. Most of the fall sports are in tournament mode, and football is gearing up for their playoff run. As always, a great time to talk high school sports. Thanks for joining the High School Sports Insider along with Bill Castrovince. I'm Dave Bacon.
On today's show, we will meet the latest Menor quarterback who's putting up big numbers through the air and in the classroom. Plus, we've got one of the best football recruits in the country, the newest star in Lorain County, and the queens of the court who are looking for a three-peat.
We begin tonight with one of the best stories out of Lorain County. A year ago, Justin Sturgill came off the bench after an injury and quarterbacked the Lorain Titans all the way to the regional final game where they lost by 4. Sturgill's back for his senior season, and the Titans are again on pace to make some noise in the Division I playoffs. With Sturgill at the controls, Lorain's offense is averaging better than 40 points a game this season. We salute Lorain High School's Justin Sturgill, this week's Spectrum Sports Game Breaker. He's listed at 5'11", 180 pounds in the program. A little undersized for a high school signal caller, but Lorain's Justin Sturgill has the it factor that coaches love in their quarterbacks.
People like him, and they've rallied around him because he's had success, and then, of course, you know, he does a lot of calling of our offense and stuff, so obviously, you know, there's good communication. When I first got here, there might have been some selfishness and all that kind of a scheme where a kid maybe would be saying to the quarterback, do this, do that. Our kids don't say anything, they just listen, and they let him do his thing, and he gets them the ball.
Being more of a leader and more disciplined, I just feel like I just need to calm down during situations and make sure I do things right and correct.
Sturgill's leadership is one of his best assets. Justin's numbers are impressive. He's completing about 60% of his passes for over 1,000 yards and is closing in on 20 touchdown passes. All for an offense that runs the ball a lot and only throws it about 15 times a game.
When our athletes made the plays, I mean, the confidence, everybody just skyrocketed, and then we were like, oh yeah, we got this, we're gonna go, we're gonna flow as a team.
If you were out in a playground picking players, you're not necessarily picking him right away. His arm's not maybe as strong as this guy or that guy, but he's savvy, he's smart, he's really a coach on the field for us, and between his athletic ability and his brain, he's a great quarterback.
Sturgill isn't about his numbers in the least. The Titans are scoring better than 40 points a game, and he thrives on his teammates' success.
Seeing all my guys happy. When they do things right and they make great plays, I mean, seeing them smile and make sure they want to do it again and they want to keep doing it and doing it without stopping, no hesitation. I just love seeing them happy and excited.
Quarterbacks are measured ultimately by wins, and Sturgill has a great story. He came in after an injury to the starter a year ago and led the Titans on a postseason run that ended in the regional final. And they're positioning themselves to make another deep playoff run this season.
There's no doubt that he seized the moment and had a great football season for us, led us to the regional game, so that's exciting. And here he comes back, he's got a little experience now.
It can be stressful at times, but another times, I mean, it's just like the best thing because they show you what you can call, and if it's working, it's gonna work. And if it's not going to work, change to something else. You know something's going to work, and they're going to make a mistake.
And you can be sure when they do, Sturgill will make the defense pay.
Let's travel to Lake County for another brilliant QB. Year in and year out, Menor has a dangerous offense with a big-time quarterback. This season, it's Tadas Tatarunas, a senior who is impressive on and off the field, who also has a sense of history because of his family. Let's meet Tadas Tatarunas, this week's Cuyahoga Community College student athlete with a future. Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. The story of Tadas Tatarunas began decades ago in Lithuania, where his grandparents were born.
They went to Germany because Russia was invading Lithuania, and then because of Hitler, they invaded Germany, went to Australia, and then they came here. So it's a crazy story, but I love to be a part of it.
Tatarunas is proud of his heritage, and he's been making some history of his own on the football field. Tadas took over as a starting quarterback of the high-flying Menor offense 2 years ago as a sophomore, and he was a natural. In his second start against #1 ranked St. Ignatius, Tatarunas threw for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. including the game winner with 8 seconds left.
Those seniors back then, they pushed me and they gave me the confidence, and ever since that, it's slowed down. It's gotten easier, and still just got to get better every single day.
Tatis has some big spikes to fill, given the Cardinals' history with quarterbacks. Bart Tansky was Ohio's Mr. Football in 2007. Mitchell Trubisky is now the starter for the Chicago Bears. And Connor Krzancic was the D1 Player of the Year in 2013. At 6'5", Tatarunas is the tallest of them all, and he's got a big arm too.
Tatis is the big, strong guy who, you know, has got all the certain tools. So I mean, they all have different tools, and they've all had that same idea that they wanted to be great.
In his first 2 seasons, Tatis threw for over 5,300 yards and 47 touchdowns, with a 4.0 grade point average, a straight-A student on and off the field.
I take pride in the classroom, and it definitely helps me at the quarterback position because you got to know reads, you got to know the defense formations, everything.
We're a very complicated offense, and we're pretty advanced, and that only comes with the quarterback who can handle it.
And while he's lighting up the scoreboard in Menor, Tadis Tatarunas also wants to make his fellow Lithuanians proud.
Yeah, I mean, I take great pride in where I'm from, and you know, it's really cool because not everyone's unique. You know, I just try to take pride in my uniqueness and just live it out.
Tatis is getting looks from the Big Ten and MAC schools, and Ohio State has offered him a walk-on scholarship so far, but he's also a standout on the Cardinals basketball team as well.
We're just getting things rolling on this week's show. Still ahead, one of high school football's top cats on defense, and some preppers looking for a return trip to the state playoffs. The High School Sports Insider will be right back.
There is a place where dreams arise, stars are born, and greatness is made. What you live for lives here. Spectrum Sports.
Before I decided to go back to Tri-C to become a nurse, I was a stay-at-home mom. Absolutely wanted to be a pediatric nurse. I love taking care of kids. If you're thinking about changing your career or changing your path, go to Cuyahoga Community College. I feel like I'm in a great place in my life. I have 3 great kids. I have a great job that I love. I could not have done it without Tri-C. My name's Diana Geary. I earned my nursing degree from Cuyahoga Community College.
The High School Sports Insider continues. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a tough year for the Cleveland Heights football team, but the Tigers still have a shining star. Tyreek Smith is one of the top recruits in the country, even though he just started playing the game. Throw in some great grades, and you have Tyreek Smith, this week's Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Shining Star. Tyreek Smith made his high school football debut 1 year ago. A freak athlete at 6'4", 250 pounds, he got 13 college offers before his first practice.
I go to a camp and I get like 4 offers that night, or I'll be in school 1 week and I get like 6 offers the whole week. So I mean, it was crazy. I remain humble, remain blessing. It was a blessing.
By the end of his junior year, the dominant defensive end had 40 offers, even though he missed most of the season with a broken leg. Now a senior, Tyreek's top 5 schools are Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, USC, and Penn State. Yet, Smith plays like he still has something to prove.
He's nowhere where he's going to be by the end of the season, but that's the thing that I love best about him, is that he just practices hard 100% of the time.
I don't think it's tough. My parents, they raised me, I mean, like, to always just be humble. They don't let none of this faze me. I'm still the same kid when I had 0 offers.
Smith is playing on offense this year, catching passes at tight end. but he won't announce his college decision until January, so his Cleveland Heights teammates will get some exposure too.
Whenever I can give them a chance, like whether it's hitting up a coach about them, sending them the film, having them come out and watch everybody, I just do what I can to help them get recruited.
Tyreek has always been a team-first guy, and that extends to the basketball court too. Yet, he's smart enough to know that there's more to life than sports. Tyreek is almost a straight-A student with a 3.9 GPA in honors classes.
The average NFL player plays 3 years. You only got 4 years of college, and then you got the rest of your life to think about what you're going to do, so I definitely focus on grades.
Wherever he ends up, Tyreek Smith will be a student-athlete to watch.
I'm looking forward to this upcoming season, but more importantly, I think I'm looking forward to just how his life in general plays out over the next couple of years.
If you know a student who shines in the classroom, like Tyreek, you should send in a nomination and get them on TV. Go to ohiolottery.com and go to the top of the page. Look for the Supporting Education tab, and that's where you'll find all the info.
A season ago, Ben Melbasa guided his alma mater University School to the playoffs in Division III, where the Preppers won a first-round game before losing to a powerhouse in Toledo Central Catholic. The experience has motivated the Preppers to work harder to make an even deeper playoff run this year. With a strong nucleus back from that team a season ago, University School is on track to do just that. We have an all-access look at the University School Preppers. The football program is definitely headed in the right direction at University School under alum Ben Melbasa. The Preppers return a solid core from last year's team that made the Division III playoffs and won a first-round game before falling to Toledo Central Catholic.
I think we all thought about how off-season means so much for the postseason, if that makes sense. So putting in as much work as we can in the offseason so that we can compete with those big teams like Toledo Central Catholic.
Just from a program standpoint, 2 years ago we had a really strong finish to the year. Last year we made it into the playoffs and won a game in the playoffs. I think we have a group of seniors right now who've had a lot of success in our program, and they're expecting of it others.
Senior quarterback Jaden Cunningham is one of the leaders who helps make the Preppers' high-powered offense go.
The main thing with Jaden is he has an incredible passion really for everything, but for the game in particular. And I think if you watch on the field, there's not a player in football who's more enthusiastic about playing football. When a guy on the team makes a play, Jaden's the first guy, to the pile celebrating the play.
I think strength is a lot of seniors returning, especially on the defense and offensive line. For the most part, everybody's coming back, even though there are some younger kids who were on O-line. Now they're just stepping in, filling in roles. I feel like if we can focus on little details and executing plays, that will help us in the long run.
The attention to detail is a great sign. A more impressive one is that the players are taking ownership of this team.
There was a sophomore at safety who had a bad play, and one of our senior captains was out on the field grabbing him and saying, hey, the next 3 plays are pride plays now. That tells us a lot about where we are as a program when seniors see a young guy who needs a reminder to not give in.
We have players who can make plays, and we know that. It's just having the confidence to make the plays and just continuing to execute.
Our guys take a great deal of pride in what we've done the last couple of years to get ourselves where we want to be. And Jim Stevens coached here for 15 years before me. He's one of the reasons why I'm here. And Jim did this once at the beginning of the 2000s, where you just get a point where you start to say, hey, we expect to do great things.
If you missed some of today's show or want to see past episodes, they're online and free. What a deal. Head to citybeat-tv.com. That's citybeat-tv.com.
Still to come on the show, we'll check out some Blazers who are on fire on the tennis court. And we'll hit the pitch for this week's Insider Classic, who's become a star in North Carolina. Stay tuned.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education. I dare you to be somebody important. Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star. I dare you to stand up here. To call the shots. To be a role model.
An inspiration. An innovator.
To be a teacher. Be my teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you. Have a career that really means something? Then do it. I dare you. I dare you.
The High School Sports Insider is rolling along with some state champions on the court. The Hathaway Brown tennis team is becoming a dynasty. The Blazers have always had individual state champs, but now the team trophies are starting to roll in. The girls are going for their third in a row, but it won't be easy. Their quest makes the Hathaway Brown tennis team our team of the week. What will Hathaway Brown do for an encore after winning the last two team titles in tennis?
Yeah, I mean, last year we went out and traveled and played all the top teams in both D1 and D2, and you know, we really tried to put ourselves in position that we're playing the best teams and pushing ourselves.
Greg is always saying, like, we're the team to beat, we're the team to beat. So it makes us, you know, run a little harder at practice, hit more serves, practice outside of practice. Like, I just think it makes us work harder. And
since we're all confident in each other, I think just from last year, like, we all like bonded as a team and everything, and for like the past couple of years, and I think that really helps.
The Blazers roster is dominated by juniors after 3 individual state champs graduated.
It's not about replacing them, it's just like using what we have already. It's because we got a lot of new players from last year's team, and we've got a new freshman coming in.
I don't know, you can always learn good things from hitting with other people, especially people that are really good, like this team. So, I mean, I learn a lot from just practicing with them.
It's amazing to have all these teammates that support you, and we're winning all these special things, and the school appreciates it and everyone does, so it's really nice.
As a young team, which is used to winning, HB is ready to take on everyone's best shot this fall.
Everyone's putting their best foot forward when they play us, so we get to see like a lot of different game styles and lineups, and it's good to see all different sides of like tennis, so I think it's helpful for us.
You just have to like embrace like our like position and just like keep doing what we're doing, and like try not to think about like, oh, they're coming after us. Like, just have to play our own game and like keep going with what we did last year.
Each week on the show, we take a look back at a student athlete we featured who's gone on to success at the college, professional, sometimes even international levels. Sophia Rossi is still in the early chapters of her success story, but it could be a big one. Sophia is at Wake Forest, where she's helping the Demon Deacons earn a top 25 ranking nationally for their soccer team. Not a surprise to anyone who helped watch Rossi lead Walsh Jesuit to 4 state titles during her time with the Warriors. Today, Sophia Rossi becomes a classic.
Soccer is more than just a game to Sophia Rossi. It has been a game changer in her life.
A lot of times with tournaments, we were out of town and you have to sacrifice doing things that you might want to do more, but it's for the right reason, and I think it just teaches you if you want something, you're going to have to work for it.
The senior from Walsh Jesuit works hard and gets results. For example, Rossi broke her leg early into her freshman year, but she came back just in time for the state championship game, and she scored the game-winning goal.
It was off a corner, and Colleen Grace, I think, served it in the box, and then Jess Losek, she went to head it, and it came my way, and then I just volleyed it in.
As a sophomore, Sophia scored twice in the title game, including another game winner.
Julie Knapp, she played an incredible ball, and I think it probably would have went in if I wasn't even there. I just literally let the ball hit me.
Last year, Rossi made it 3 for 3. scoring the only goal in the state finals to give the Warriors their 4th trophy in a row.
I wouldn't have been able to do that without all the other teammates, you know. It's a team sport, and I just think, you know, our chemistry, how we play, it's a lot of like heart and emotion, and I think that's what gets us to that point.
You know, you have good players that are really fast, good players that are really can jump real high and beat everybody. And then there's the ones that know how to position themselves. You know, they just understand the game tactically so well that they know where to be.
We do know that she'll be playing soccer at Wake Forest next year. And she'll be working hard in the classroom too, where she is a 3.8 student. There's no telling how far Sophia Rossi will go in life, but she is confident playing soccer at Walsh has got her ready for anything.
I'm going to be more confident knowing that I was able to play here and learn from such amazing girls and an amazing coach too, to teach us like just to be strong, to go after what you want.
We want you to get more involved in the show, and you can through social media. Follow us on Twitter. We're at HS Sports Insider and at Dave Bacon Sports. Tweet us your story ideas or your pictures showing your school spirit, and we'll use them in a future show. We're still plugging away on Facebook as well. Head to our page and like us. We're at High School Sports Insider.
The tweets of the week are coming up next after these important messages.
The best thing Tri-C did for me was give me opportunities. The workforce program prepared me for the career I have now. I got a job in the aerospace industry where I work on CNC machines. I have 3 younger brothers. I want to teach my brothers, you know, hard work actually pays off. Come to Tri-C. It's a great stepping stone to wherever you're trying to get to in life. My name is Chris Grooms, and I got my start at Tri-C.
There is a place where dreams arise, stars are born, and greatness is made. What you live for lives here. Spectrum Sports.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Thanks for staying with us on the High School Sports Insider. For the first 25 minutes or so of the show, we've told you what we think's important. Now it's your turn to let us know what's on your mind. A few rules. You have to use 140 characters or less. Better yet, send us a picture. Time for the tweets of the week. A big shout out to St. Ed's football alum David Dowell. He was named Big Ten Player of the Week for his 7-tackle, 2-interception, and 1 fumble recovery performance in Michigan State's upset over Michigan. Glen Oaks football players visited elementary schools in the area in the One Book, One Community project that encourages young people to read. And Shaker Heights' Lyle Yost won 2 bronze medals in the Junior Pan American Games in Victoria, British Columbia. Keep those tweets coming. We want your story ideas or your pictures showing your school spirit. Tweet those to us. We're at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. Again, that's at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. We'll use a few of them on upcoming shows as the tweets of the week. Half hour goes by so fast. Now we are all out of time. Thanks for joining us on this edition of High School Sports Insider. We expect to see you back here next week, same time, same place, when again we'll have some of the best high school sports stories from all across Ohio.
Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting high school athletics. Have a great night.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can.
Get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends,
our roommates,
our classmates, our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can.
Intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.